"I brought them because I am tired of hiding," Ethan said, as his mistress walked into our anniversary dinner holding his son's hand, every fork stopped above every plate, and his mother looked at me as if my heartbreak was an inconvenience she expected me to manage quietly for 8 years. I had cried over his affairs, his excuses, and the child he had with another woman, but that night I only took off my wedding ring, placed it beside my untouched glass of champagne, and saved a photo of all 3 of them smiling at my table. Ethan's mouth tightened. He knew what my tears looked like. He had no idea what my silence meant. The dining room at the Whitmore estate had been dressed for celebration. White roses filled crystal vases, candles burned in silver holders along the long table. A string quartet played softly in the West Gallery because Margaret Whitmore believed silence made rich people look guilty. It was supposed to be my 8th wedding anniversary. I had chosen a simple ivory dress. I had worn the pearl earrings Ethan gave me during our first year of marriage, back when I still thought expensive gifts meant he had trouble expressing feelings, not that he preferred replacing apologies with receipts. I had come prepared to survive one more polished family dinner, one more speech about legacy, one more photo of Ethan placing his hand on my waist as if we were still a team. Then the double doors opened. Sienna Vale stepped inside as if she had rehearsed the entrance in a mirror. She wore a pale blue silk dress, soft enough to look innocent, expensive enough to announce that someone in this family paid her bills. Her blonde hair fell over one shoulder, her mouth trembled, but her eyes did not. I noticed that first. Sienna always made her face look fragile while her eyes stayed sharp. Beside her stood a little boy in a navy jacket, Noah, 3 years old, Ethan's son. His small hand clutched Sienna's fingers. He looked at the room with the uncertain curiosity of a child dragged into an adult performance he could not understand. Then he looked at Ethan and smiled. "Daddy." The word cut through the room more cleanly than glass. One of Ethan's cousins coughed into his napkin. His uncle lowered his wine. Margaret did not blink. She only lifted one hand toward the empty chair across from me. "Bring another place setting," she told the nearest server. My pulse slowed in a strange way, not stopped, not raced, slowed. In the past, something in me would have cracked open at that word. "Daddy." I would have looked at Ethan, desperate for denial. I would have waited for him to stand, to say this was a mistake, to choose me in front of all the people who had watched me shrink year after year. But Ethan did not deny it. He walked toward Sienna and placed a hand on Noah's shoulder. "It was not a mistake. It was an announcement. Olivia," he said, using the careful tone he used with reporters and unstable investors. "I know this is difficult. Difficult. A flat tire was difficult. A delayed flight was difficult. Your husband bringing his mistress and their child to your anniversary dinner was not difficult. It was surgical." Sienna lowered her eyes. "I did not want to intrude." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because the lie was so clean it deserved applause. No woman arrived at another woman's anniversary dinner by accident wearing diamonds I recognized from a receipt Ethan once told me was for a corporate gift. Ethan pulled out a chair for Noah, not for me, for Noah. The child climbed into it with the seriousness of someone trying to behave. A server placed a folded napkin on his lap. Sienna sat beside him, Ethan sat beside her, then looked across the table at me, his wife, the woman who had spent 8 years standing beside him at hospital openings, scholarship dinners, building launches, charity auctions, board retreats, holiday photographs, donor calls, and family scandals. The woman who had learned which investors hated each other, which reporters could be softened with early access, which relatives needed to feel powerful before they would shut up. The woman who had once lost a pregnancy alone in a hospital room while Ethan's phone rang unanswered. I had not thought about that night in months. Or maybe I thought about it every day and had simply stopped calling it memory. Margaret raised her glass. "To family," she said. There it was, the word they had chosen for me to swallow. Family, not affair, not betrayal, not child born during my marriage. Family. Ethan's aunt looked at me with pity sharpened by curiosity. His cousin's wife leaned slightly toward her husband, already saving every detail for later. Sienna placed a hand gently over Noah's and whispered something in his ear. The boy nodded, then reached for a bread roll. No one spoke to me. They were waiting. They wanted the scene they understood. Olivia crying, Olivia asking how Ethan could do this, Olivia leaving the table so Margaret could sigh and say emotions made things worse, Olivia giving them permission to call her unstable. I picked up my knife. The silver handle felt cool against my palm. Across from me, Ethan's eyes narrowed. He expected tears. He had built an entire marriage on my tears. They had been useful to him. Tears meant I was still asking for something. Love, honesty, repair. A version of him that had never existed long enough to be real. I cut into my steak. The sound of knife against porcelain seemed louder than the quartet. Sienna looked up, Margaret's gaze fixed on my hand. That was when I removed my wedding ring. It was a platinum band with a round diamond Ethan had insisted was custom. Though later I learned his assistant had selected 3 options and he had chosen the largest. It had felt heavy the first year, romantic the second, symbolic the third, humiliating by the 5th. I did not throw it, I did not slide it toward him. I placed it beside my champagne glass as if it were a finished course. Ethan went still. Olivia, he said under his breath. I lifted my phone for 1 second. Sienna smiled because she thought I was about to make a call, maybe to cry to a friend, maybe to make a scene. Instead, I opened the camera and took 1 photo. Ethan, Sienna, Noah at my anniversary dinner. The flash did not go off. I never made amateur mistakes. Did you just take a picture? Ethan asked. Yes. For what? I set the phone beside my plate. Records. Margaret's lips tightened. This is a family dinner. Olivia, not a courtroom. Then everyone should feel more relaxed. Someone dropped a spoon. Sienna's hand tightened around her water glass. Ethan looked at me with a flicker of something I had not seen from him in years. Uncertainty. It did not last long. He leaned back, recovering his voice. Noah is my son. I will not apologize for making sure he has a place in my life. No one asked you to apologize. That surprised him more than if I had screamed. His mouth parted slightly. You are not upset. I understand. The words were calm, and because they were calm, they moved through the room like smoke. Sienna watched me closely now. Her fragile mask slipped at the edge. She had not come here for calm. She had come here to see me break. She had come here to become the soft mother beside the innocent child while I became the bitter wife who could not accept reality. I took a sip of water. It tasted like metal. Margaret set down her glass. Then perhaps we can proceed maturely. Perhaps. Ethan frowned. That was the problem with people who hurt you for years. They learned the language of your pain. Then panicked when you became fluent in silence. Dinner continued, not normally. Nothing about that room would ever be normal again. But rich families had a remarkable ability to chew through disgrace if the silverware was polished enough. Noah asked for more potatoes. Sienna smiled at Ethan when he served them to him. Margaret asked about school applications for a child too young to understand the conversation. Ethan answered with careful ease, slowly growing comfortable again because I had not. Shattered, he mistook my composure for surrender. At one point, Sienna turned to me. Olivia, she said softly, I know this is not how you imagined tonight. I looked at her. She placed a hand on her chest, delicate and theatrical. But Noah is innocent. Yes, I said, he is. Her expression faltered. I did not hate the child. That seemed to disturb her. She had prepared for a different fight. Ethan watched us both. I am glad you can see that. I see many things. His jaw moved once. Margaret tried to redirect the conversation toward the Foundation's spring gala. She reminded me that donors expected me to give the opening remarks. She said the board preferred stability. She said the Whitmore name carried responsibility. Each sentence had a hook hidden inside it. Do not embarrass us. Do not expose us. Do not make Ethan pay. When dessert came, the server placed a small cake in front of Ethan and me. White frosting, gold trim, 8 candles, a sugared ribbon that said always. I stared at the word always. I had once believed in it. That embarrassed me more than the betrayal. Ethan picked up the knife to cut the cake. Olivia, I looked at him. For tonight, he said quietly. Thank you. He meant thank you for behaving. Thank you for not making his mistress uncomfortable. Thank you for letting his son eat cake at the table where my marriage was being buried. I picked up my phone. Excuse me. I stood, every face turned toward me. Ethan half rose from his chair. Where are you going? To the restroom. His eyes dropped to the ring beside my glass. Leave that here, he said. It was the first honest thing he had said all evening. I smiled. No. I picked up the ring and put it in my clutch, not on my finger, never again. But not for him to reclaim either. As I walked out, I heard Sienna whisper, is she okay? No one answered. The hallway outside the dining room was dim and quiet. Portraits of dead Whitmores watched from the walls. each one framed in gold, each one smug with inherited importance. My heels sank into the runner carpet. At the powder room door, I stopped, then I kept walking past the powder room, past the floral arrangements, past the east sitting room where Ethan once kissed me during our engagement party and promised he would never humiliate me. I entered the small library near the back stairs and locked the door. Only then did I let my hand shake, not my face, not my voice, just my hand. I opened my banking app. For years, I had maintained a private monthly transfer into an account Ethan used for what he called discretionary family expenses. At first, it had covered staff bonuses, household emergencies, gifts for his mother, quiet payments that made the Whitmore machine run smoothly. Later, I stopped asking questions because asking led to fights, and fights led to apologies, and apologies led to nothing. Tonight, I stopped the automatic transfer, then I downloaded 12 months of statements, then I opened my messages and typed to Rachel Monroe, my college roommate, divorce attorney, and the only person who had never once told me to be patient with a man who benefited from my patience. I need you, not emotionally. Legally, I attached the photo from dinner. Rachel replied in less than 1 minute. Are you safe? I looked toward the dining room, where my husband was probably cutting anniversary cake beside his mistress and son. Safe, what a small word. I typed back for the first time in years. Yes, then a notification appeared from the bank, scheduled transfer cancelled. Another message followed immediately, payment declined, Vale Residential Holdings. I stared at the name Vale, Sienna Vale. The room seemed to tilt, then sharpen. A second later, my phone buzzed with a call from Ethan. I watched his name light up the screen. My rich husband had brought his other family to my anniversary dinner, but the moment my money stopped moving, he finally noticed I had left the table. I declined the call, then I saved the bank alert. Ethan found me in the library 11 minutes later. He did not knock. He never knocked when he believed the room belonged to him. Even if I was the one inside it, the door opened, and he stepped in with his tie loosened and his face arranged into calm concern. It was his favorite expression after hurting me. Not guilty, not apologetic. Concerned, as if my reaction were the real crisis, and he was generous for managing it. What are you doing? He asked. I slipped my phone into my clutch. Taking a moment, his eyes went to my left hand. Bare, his jaw tightened. You made your point. No, I made a record. Olivia. He closed the door behind him. The click sounded too intimate, too familiar, too much like every night he had followed me after an argument and waited for me to fold. He took 2 steps toward me. I did not step back. That seemed to irritate him. You handled dinner well, he said. I looked at him for a few seconds before answering. That is a strange thing to say to your wife after bringing your mistress and child to her anniversary dinner. His nostrils flared. Do not call her that in front of Noah. I did not call her that in front of Noah, but you are thinking it. Yes. Ethan dragged a hand over his mouth. Sienna is Noah's mother. That is all. That was all. A mother in a silk dress at my table. A mother wearing diamonds paid for by my husband. A mother whose child called him daddy while my anniversary cake melted untouched. I understand what she is, I said. His gaze sharpened again. You keep saying that. Because I do. He watched me carefully. I could almost see him looking for the crack. My tears usually came after the second push, sometimes the third. He knew the rhythm of my pain better than he knew my coffee order. He softened his voice. Olivia, I should have told you differently. I laughed once. It was a small sound, dry, almost polite. Differently. He hated that. He could manage sobbing. He could manage accusations. But this clean little laugh took the script away from him. This is exactly what I mean, he said. Suddenly colder. You turn everything into a punishment. I tilted my head. What am I punishing you with? Silence. Distance. That ring stunt. That was not a stunt. Then what was it? A boundary. He stared at me. The word landed between us like a foreign object in our marriage. Boundaries had always been treated as threats. If I asked where he had been, I was insecure. If I asked why Sienna's name appeared on expense reports, I was paranoid. If I cried when I learned about Noah, I was making an innocent child suffer. If I asked Ethan not to bring his affair into public view, I was unrealistic. But I had not asked tonight. I had simply removed myself. Ethan glanced around the library, perhaps noticing for the first time that my clutch sat open on the desk, that the drawers behind me had been disturbed, that I had not come here to cry. What did you do? He asked. What do you mean? His phone buzzed in his hand. He looked down. His face changed. There it was, not heartbreak, not remorse. Alarm. Did you cancel a transfer? He asked. Yes. His eyes lifted slowly. Why? Because I no longer authorize payments from my personal account into your discretionary account. That account covers household expenses. No, it does not. His face hardened. You do not know what it covers. I am starting to. For a moment, he did not speak, then he stepped closer to the desk. Olivia, you need to be careful. I looked at his hand as it rested on the back of the leather chair. Strong fingers, gold cuff link, wedding band still shining. Ethan had always worn his ring. That had once comforted me. Later, I understood it was not proof of loyalty. It was part of his costume. Careful with what? I asked. With making financial decisions while emotional. I am not emotional. You are furious. I was furious 3 years ago. Tonight I am organized. His expression flickered. I had used the wrong word for his comfort. Organized. It suggested tomorrow. It suggested files. It suggested consequences. He straightened. We can talk about Noah privately. Noah is not the problem. Then what is? You. The room went still for 8 years. I had avoided simple sentences because simple sentences forced simple truths. I had buried them under questions. Why did you lie? How could you do this? What does she have that I do not? Did you ever love me? Questions gave him room. Questions let him explain, dodge, flatter, apologize, and return to whatever he wanted. A statement did not give him room. You. His mouth tightened. I have made mistakes. No, you made arrangements. He turned away as if I had slapped him. You are twisting this. I am naming it. You think one cancelled transfer changes anything. No. I reached into my clutch and pulled out my wedding ring. I held it between 2 fingers, watching the diamond catch the library light. This changes nothing. It only shows me what was already true. His gaze fixed on the ring. Put it back on. No, Olivia, no. He exhaled sharply. Do not embarrass me in my own house. That was when I understood something so clearly. I almost felt calm enough to pity him. He was not afraid of losing me, not yet. He was afraid of how it looked. I placed the ring in the small inner pocket of my clutch and zipped it closed. This is our house, I said. For now. His face darkened. What does that mean? It means I am going upstairs. I moved toward the door. He caught my wrist, not hard enough to bruise. Ethan was too polished. 4 visible damage, but firm enough to stop me. Firm enough to remind me that he was used to being obeyed. I looked down at his hand, then back at him. Let go. For 1 second. He did not. My voice stayed even. Ethan, let go of me. He released my wrist. The surprise on his face would have been funny if my life were not burning down around us. I walked out. The dinner was still going when I passed the doorway. Margaret looked up first. Sienna had a forkful of cake halfway to her mouth. Noah had frosting on his chin. Ethan's uncle pretended not to see me. The quartet had stopped playing. Without music, the room felt like a staged photograph after everyone inside it had died. Margaret rose slightly. Olivia, where are you going? To bed. This is not the time for drama. I turned toward her. I agree. That silenced her. I continued up the stairs alone in the master bedroom. The scent of white roses followed me. There were more flowers on the dresser. Ethan's assistant had arranged them. I knew because the card said, "To my beautiful wife, always," in handwriting that was not his. I took off the ivory dress. I folded it carefully. Then I opened the bottom drawer of my nightstand. Inside was a blue folder I had not touched in years. Prenuptial agreement, postnuptial addendum, foundation authorization documents. I had signed the addendum after Ethan's first public scandal, not his first affair, the first one sloppy enough to reach a gossip columnist. Rachel had insisted I protect myself. Before agreeing to stand beside him at the press conference back then, I had been so ashamed of needing protection inside my own marriage that I barely read the document after signing. Now I read every word. Clause 14. Long-term extramarital relationship resulting in reputational, financial, or legal harm to the marital estate. Clause 17. Unauthorized use of joint marital funds to support a third party outside the marriage. Clause 22. Right of independent financial review upon reasonable suspicion of misappropriation. Clause 31. Whitmore Family Foundation spousal representation authorization may be revoked by written notice from the named party. Named party me, Olivia Harper Whitmore, not Mrs. Ethan Whitmore, not the graceful wife, not the woman at the end of the table trying not to bleed in public. Me, my phone buzzed. Rachel, I answered. Tell me you are not alone with him, she said. I am upstairs, door locked. Good. I looked at the photo. Is the child his? Yes. And he brought them to your anniversary dinner? Yes. A pause. Rachel used silence differently from Ethan. His silence was a weapon. Hers was a container. She gave people room to put the truth somewhere safe. Olivia, she said finally, do you want comfort or strategy? I looked at the folder on my lap. Strategy. Good. First, do not confront him about every detail tonight. Second, preserve records. Third, do not sign anything from his family. Fourth, separate your funds immediately if you can do so legally. Fifth, tomorrow we request account statements, property records, and foundation disbursements. I already cancelled one transfer. Which one? I explained the account. Rachel swore softly. Do you know where the money was going? A payment alert said Vale Residential Holdings, Sienna. Yes. Screenshot it, send it to me, then forward the original bank notice to an email Ethan cannot access. I did. My hands no longer shook. That frightened me more than the shaking had. Rachel, I said, yes, I think he used my money to help pay for her apartment. Then we find out. I glanced toward the bedroom door as footsteps passed in the hall. Slow, heavy. Ethan. He stopped outside but did not knock. Also, Rachel said, her voice gentler, do you have your medical records from the miscarriage? My throat closed. I do not know. You told me once he was not there. He said he was in Boston. Was he? I closed my eyes. The old pain moved behind my ribs like an animal waking up. I never checked. Then we check. Outside the door, Ethan's shadow darkened the gap at the bottom. Olivia, he said through the wood. I did not answer. Rachel heard him. Do you want me to stay on the line? Yes. Ethan tried the handle, locked. Olivia, open the door. Rachel's voice hardened. Do not open it unless you want to. I sat on the bed in my slip with the legal folder spread before me, my bare ring finger resting on clause 31 for the first time. I did not move because Ethan called my name. He knocked once, then again, then his phone buzzed. I imagined him looking down. Another failed payment, another blocked transfer, another tiny rip in the invisible net I had spent years holding under him. His voice changed. What did you do to the accounts? There it was again. Not, are you hurt? Not, can we talk about what I did? The accounts. I looked at the locked door. Then I looked at my reflection in the dark bedroom window. I did not look powerful. I looked pale, tired, and older than I had that morning. But I also looked awake. I put Rachel on speaker, opened my laptop, and logged into every account that had my name on it. Ethan knocked harder. Olivia. I clicked download. Statement after statement, payment after payment, name after name. Vale Residential Holdings, Vale Communications LLC, S, Vale Consulting, Noah Vale Education Trust. My breath caught at the last one. A trust for his son, funded through accounts I had helped maintain while I was still sleeping beside him. Ethan hit the door once with his palm. Stop this. I saved the files to an encrypted drive. Then I called through the door in a voice so calm it did not sound like the woman he had married. I already did. What? I stopped crying. There was silence outside. Then, lower, almost uncertain, Ethan said, Olivia, open the door. I closed the laptop. No. The next morning, Ethan sent flowers. Not to our bedroom, not to the kitchen, not to the small sitting room where I drank coffee before foundation calls. He sent them to my car. 24 white roses waited on the hood of my black sedan in the circular drive, wrapped in paper the color of old money. The card lay tucked between stems. We need to talk without lawyers. No apology, no acknowledgement, no handwriting. I left the flowers there. Then I drove to the bank. I wore navy trousers, a white blouse, and no wedding ring. The absence felt visible, almost loud. For years, I had twisted that ring whenever I felt embarrassed, anxious, or unsure, in elevators, at dinners, during interviews, outside Ethan's office when his assistant said he was unavailable while I could hear a woman laughing inside. Now my finger rested bare on the steering wheel. It looked like a question that had finally answered itself. Rachel met me outside Hamilton Private Bank at 9 sharp. She wore a grey suit and carried a leather folder thick enough to scare men who preferred women emotional. She hugged me once, briefly, then she stepped back and looked at my face. You slept, No, you ate. No, then after this, we get food. I am not hungry. I did not ask. That almost made me smile inside. The bank smelled like polished wood, espresso, and quiet fear. Rich people moved differently in private banks, slowly, as if rushing suggested dependence. A young associate led us to a conference room with frosted glass walls. Minutes later, Mr. Bellamy, the senior relationship manager, entered with a smile that collapsed slightly when he saw Rachel's bar card on the table. Mrs. Whitmore, he said, we were not expecting legal counsel. Neither was I replied. Yet here we are. He sat. Rachel slid a written request across the table. We need full statements for all accounts bearing Mrs. Whitmore's name, joint accounts requiring her authorization, accounts receiving recurring transfers from her personal funds, and any related outgoing payments to the entities listed here. Mr. Bellamy glanced at the page. His eyes paused. Vale Residential Holdings, Vale Communications LLC S. Vale Consulting, Noah Vale Education Trust. He recovered quickly. Bankers were trained to survive recognition. These requests may require processing time. Rachel smiled. That is fine. We will wait. He looked at me. Mrs. Whitmore, perhaps Mr. Whitmore should be included in this conversation. No, his mouth closed. I was beginning to understand the power of one-syllable answers. For years, I had over-explained because I wanted to be understood. But people like Mr. Bellamy did not misunderstand me. They understood Ethan more profitably. I am a named account holder, I said. I am requesting my records. Of course. He left. Rachel leaned back. He knows. Yes, you saw that too. I am tired, not blind. The first batch arrived 20 minutes later. Paper still felt more damning than screens. A printed statement had weight. It could be stacked, highlighted, handed to a judge. It could sit in front of a husband and refuse to disappear when he changed his tone. We began with the obvious payments, monthly transfer from my personal account into Ethan's discretionary account. From there, split payments, a property management company, a boutique pediatric clinic, a preschool deposit, furniture, a recurring luxury car lease, a consulting fee to S. Vale Consulting, approved through a foundation-adjacent event budget. That one, Rachel said, tapping the page, is interesting. I looked. $48,000, labeled donor relations strategy, paid 3 weeks after Sienna gave birth. My stomach turned. The next page was worse. Vale Residential Holdings had received an initial deposit, followed by regular payments disguised as temporary housing support for external consultants. I had hosted a donor dinner that same month in a rented gown because Margaret had told me appearing extravagant during a housing initiative campaign would be insensitive. Meanwhile, my husband had been helping his mistress move into a luxury apartment. Keep going, Rachel asked. Yes. By page 23, I stopped feeling each cut individually. They became a pattern. Ethan had not made one mistake. He had built a second household with the smooth patience of a man confident his first household would keep running. At 11, Maya Chen arrived. She had worked in foundation finance for 4 years and had the quiet, precise manner of someone who noticed everything and volunteered nothing until asked directly. She entered the conference room holding a laptop and a paper cup of tea. Mrs. Whitmore, she said. Rachel, you did not have to come, I told her. Yes, I did. She sat and opened her laptop. Maya had emailed me late the night before after Rachel made a formal document request to the foundation. Her message was short. There are irregularities you should see before anyone cleans them. Now she turned the screen toward us. I started tracking vendor inconsistencies last year, she said. The foundation paid S. Vale Consulting for public relations work connected to 3 events, but the deliverables were either incomplete or produced internally by our staff. Rachel leaned in. So why were the invoices paid? Mr. Whitmore approved them. I stared at the screen. Ethan's digital signature appeared below each invoice. My signature did not, but my name appeared in the event overview. Foundation Chair, Olivia Harper Whitmore. My face had sold the events. My reputation had brought in donors. My husband had used that machinery to route money toward his mistress. Did you question it? Rachel asked. Maya's mouth tightened. I did, Mr. Whitmore told me the vendor relationship was sensitive and that Mrs. Whitmore had approved it informally. I closed my eyes. There it was, not just betrayal use. He had not merely lied to me, he had used the trust people had in me to protect payments I never approved. I did not approve it, I said. I know, Maya replied quietly. That is why I kept copies. She handed Rachel a USB drive. I looked at her. Why? Maya's gaze softened. Because my mother stayed married to a man who spent her life while calling her ungrateful. I recognized the pattern. Something in my chest shifted, not healed but held. Thank you, I said. Maya nodded once. After she left, Rachel and I remained in the conference room with statements spread across the table. Legally, she said, this is strong. Emotionally, it is horrible. I need you to remember both. Can you? I looked at the payment labeled Noah Vale Education Trust, a child's education. I could not hate that part. That made it more painful. Noah had not asked to be born into my marriage. He had not asked to be used as a knife. He was a little boy who liked potatoes and had frosting on his chin. But Ethan had made him a financial instrument. Sienna had made him a moral shield. Margaret wanted to make him a legal heir at my expense. And I was done confusing innocence with obligation. I said. My phone rang. Ethan, I declined. A text arrived. Do not make this uglier than it has to be. Rachel saw my face. What did he say? I showed her. She snorted. Classic. Another text. Sienna is upset. Noah is confused. My hand tightened around the phone. Rachel noticed. Do not answer from anger. I am not angry. That is worse for him. I typed. Then you should both comfort him. I sent it before Rachel could stop me. She read it and smiled. Controlled. Slightly sharp, acceptable. By noon, we had enough to begin formal financial review. Rachel arranged copies. I signed authorization for her firm to act on my behalf. Then we left the bank through a side exit to avoid the possibility of Ethan sending someone to intercept me. He did not send someone. Sienna came herself. She stood beside the valet stand in sunglasses too large for her face, one hand resting on the strap of a cream designer bag. The last time I had seen that bag, it had been on a gift receipt in Ethan's office drawer. Olivia, she said. Rachel stepped slightly forward. I touched her arm. It is fine. Sienna removed her sunglasses slowly, as if we were in a film and she had been cast as the wronged woman. I do not want this to become hostile. Then you should not have come to my anniversary dinner. Her lips pressed together. Ethan wanted honesty. No, Ethan wanted convenience. I know you hate me. I do not think about you enough for that. The words landed. Her eyes flashed. There she was, not fragile, not trembling, not the woman whispering about innocence over anniversary cake. You think you are above this, she said quietly. No, I think I am done being beneath it. Rachel made a small sound that might have been approval. Sienna glanced at her, then back at me. Noah needs stability. Then give it to him. He needs his father. He has one. He needs his father's family. I looked at her for a long moment. There was the real sentence, not love access. Is that why you came? I asked. To discuss family, or did a payment fail? Her expression changed so fast it answered before she did. I smiled faintly. Vale Residential Holdings. I said, interesting name. You have no right to interfere with support for my child. My money is not child support. It was Ethan's money. It came from accounts with my name on them. She stepped closer. You have no idea what it is like to raise his son alone. No, I said, I only know what it is like to lose my child alone while he ignored my calls. Her face went blank for 1 second. Real surprise, then something like fear. She knew maybe not everything, but enough. Sienna, I said, softer now. Your child is not my enemy. But do not stand in front of me pretending motherhood makes theft sacred. Her mouth opened, then closed. A black SUV pulled up. Ethan got out before the driver fully stopped. Of course, he came quickly, eyes moving from Sienna to me to Rachel. What is going on? He demanded. Rachel answered before I could. A public conversation you should probably avoid. He ignored her. Olivia, come with me. No, now, no. Sienna touched his sleeve. Ethan, please. It was perfect. She made herself small beside him. I could almost admire the timing. He lowered his voice. You are upsetting everyone. I looked at him in the bright noon light outside the bank where I had just confirmed he had used my money to maintain his other family. My husband looked less rich than usual, not poor. Ethan Whitmore would never look poor, but exposed, like a man who had walked out wearing a tailored suit and realized someone had removed the lining. Good, I said. His eyes widened. Good, yes, everyone should be. Upset, Rachel touched my elbow. Olivia, she was not warning me. She was asking whether I wanted to leave. I did. I turned toward my car. Ethan followed. We are not finished. I stopped beside the driver's door. No, I said. We are finally starting. Sienna's voice came from behind him, lower now, stripped of sweetness. You cannot erase us. I looked back. She stood with one hand over her stomach, though Noah was not there, a practiced pose. Motherhood as armor. I am not trying to erase you, I said. I am itemizing you. Ethan went pale. That was the first time I saw real fear on his face. Not because I cried, because I counted. I got into my car and drove away at the first red light. Another email came from Rachel's office. Preliminary property search. Attached was the ownership record for Sienna's apartment. The signing date appeared on the second page 3 years ago, November 14, the same date I had gone to St. Mercy Hospital bleeding through my jeans, calling Ethan again and again while a nurse asked whether there was anyone they could contact. I sat at the red light until someone honked behind me. Then I pulled into a gas station, parked, and opened the document again. Emergency contact on lease application, Ethan Whitmore. Date of possession, November 14. I knew that date. My body knew it before my mind formed the thought. That was the night I lost my baby, and Ethan had been signing another woman into a new home. My phone rang this time. I answered. Ethan spoke first. Why are you looking at old property records? His voice was too sharp. He knew what I had found. I stared through the windshield at the gas station sign blurring in the heat. Because the past has addresses, I said. Then I ended the call. Street, Mercy Hospital looked the same from the outside. That offended me. The glass entrance still reflected the sky. The valet stand still had 2 attendants in red vests. The lobby still smelled faintly of disinfectant, coffee, and lilies from the gift shop. People walked in carrying flowers, balloons, overnight bags. Fear 3 years ago. I had walked in carrying nothing but my phone and a pain so sharp I could barely stand upright. I had been 10 weeks pregnant, not far enough for announcements, Margaret had said. Not far enough for excitement, Ethan had said. Not far enough to decorate a nursery, I had told myself, but far enough to love. I sat in my car for 6 minutes before going inside. Rachel had offered to come. I told her no. Some records needed witnesses. This one needed me at the reception desk. I gave my name, date of birth, and identification. The woman behind the counter typed, clicked, and glanced at my bare left hand. It was a tiny movement. I noticed anyway. I need my emergency and surgical records from November 14th, 3 years ago. I said, of course. Please fill out this release. The clipboard felt heavier than it should have. Reason for request. I wrote, legal. Then I crossed it out. I wrote, personal. That was also true. While I waited, I watched a young couple near the elevators. The woman had one hand on her stomach. The man held a paper cup of water with both hands, hovering, anxious, useless in the sweet way men could be when they actually wanted to be present. I looked away. Mrs. Whitmore, a nurse in navy scrubs, stood beside the waiting area. Her hair was streaked with gray, pulled tight at the nape of her neck. I am Dr. Ellis's coordinator, she said. The doctor has a few minutes, if you would like to speak with her. I had not expected that. Dr. Ellis is still here. Yes, I followed her down a corridor painted in soft beige, the kind hospitals used to pretend terror could be neutralized by color theory. We passed exam rooms, supply carts, a man arguing quietly with an insurance representative, a little girl holding a stuffed rabbit by one ear. Dr. Hannah Ellis stood when I entered her office. She was in her late 50s, with kind eyes and the blunt posture of a woman who had spent decades telling people truths they did not want. She looked at me for only a second before recognition settled on her face. Olivia, she said, not Mrs. Whitmore. Olivia. That alone almost undid me. Doctor. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. Sit. I did. She closed the door herself. I saw the records request. She said, I wondered if it was you. You remember me? Yes. I tried to smile, failed. I suppose it was a dramatic night. No, she said, it was a lonely one. The words hit harder than cruelty would have. I looked down at my hands. Dr. Ellis opened a folder. I cannot tell you anything that is not in your own record, but I can walk through it with you. Please. She put on reading glasses. You arrived at 9:42 p.m., with heavy bleeding and abdominal pain. You reported being approximately 10 weeks pregnant. You had attempted to contact your husband multiple times before arrival. My throat tightened. You remember that? It is in the nursing notes. Of course it was. Pain became evidence when a nurse wrote it down. Dr. Ellis continued. Emergency contact. Listed as Ethan Whitmore. Staff attempted to call him at 9:58, 10:11, and 10:24. No answer. You declined to contact another family member. Because I had been ashamed, because I did not want Margaret to know before Ethan did, because some foolish part of me believed he would call back. Procedure began at 11:06. Dr. Ellis said. You signed consent yourself. I remembered the pen, blue ink, my hand shaking so badly the nurse steadied the paper. I had asked, can we wait for my husband? The nurse had looked at Dr. Ellis. Dr. Ellis had said gently, we need to take care of you now. Now, 3 years later, she turned another page. Your discharge instructions were reviewed at 2:18 a.m. You left at 3:02 a.m. with a private driver, not my husband. No, the room blurred. I pressed my thumb against the inside of my wrist until the sensation grounded me. I need certified copies, I said. You will have them. I nodded. Dr. Ellis removed her glasses. Olivia, are you safe? People had asked me that. Twice in 2 days, Rachel. Now Dr. Ellis. For years, everyone in Ethan's world had asked whether I was calm, presentable, gracious, available, reasonable. Safe was a different question. I am becoming safe, I said. She accepted that. There is something else, she said carefully. Again, I can only speak to your chart, but your file contains a note from the social worker. I looked up. What note? She documented that you became distressed when you saw your husband's name on the maternity floor. Visitor registry later that night. The air left my lungs. What? Dr. Ellis's face softened with professional sorrow. You asked whether he had been in the building. The social worker could not confirm details to you because of privacy rules. She noted that you appeared shaken and requested to leave. I remembered that too, but not fully. A flash, being wheeled past an elevator, seeing Ethan's last name on a digital visitor board, Whitmore, Ethan, maternity suite 4B. I had been half sedated, grief, drunk, bleeding, and alone. Later, when I asked Ethan where he had been, he said Boston. I wanted so badly to believe him that I let my own memory become suspect. Can I get that note? I asked. It is part of your medical record. She placed a tissue box between us without making a show of it. I did not take one, not because I was strong, because if I began crying in that office, I feared I would not stop before the legal deadline Rachel needed me to meet. Dr. Ellis printed the certified copies herself. She placed them in a sealed envelope and signed across the flap at the door. She touched my arm. I am sorry, she said. I nodded. Once outside, I sat in my car and opened the envelope. The facts were there: times, calls, consent, procedure, discharge, social worker note. My pain had a paper trail. My marriage had a timestamp. I took photos of each page and sent them to Rachel. She replied almost immediately, this matters. Then another message: do not confront him alone. My phone rang. Ethan. I watched it ring until it stopped. Then he texted, why were you at Street Mercy? A second message followed. Olivia, answer me. A third, do not drag that night into this. That night. So he knew. He had always known which night. I typed slowly. Where were you when I lost our baby? The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then vanished. No answer. I started the car. Before I could pull out, a black town car stopped across from me. The rear door opened. Margaret Whitmore stepped out. She wore cream wool, pearls, and the expression of a woman arriving to correct a servant. I almost admired her timing. Almost. She approached my car without hesitation and tapped on the window. I lowered it halfway. Olivia, she said, you are making a spectacle. I am in a hospital parking lot. You know what I mean. I usually do. Her mouth tightened. Ethan is worried. About me. About what you are doing. At least she was honest. I held up the sealed medical record envelope. Good. Her eyes dropped to it. For the first time, I saw discomfort, not guilt. Margaret rarely wasted energy on guilt calculation. What happened 3 years ago was unfortunate, she said. Something cold moved through me. Unfortunate. You were both under pressure. I was under anesthesia. She stiffened. I opened the car door and stepped out. I wanted to be standing for this. Did you know? I asked. Her eyes held mine. Know what? That Ethan was in the maternity wing with Sienna while I was losing his child downstairs. A car passed behind her, somewhere near the entrance. A woman laughed. Life continued with obscene confidence, Margaret said. This is not the place. That means yes, it means you are emotional. No, I said, it means you are cornered. Her face changed. There was the Whitmore steel. You need to think carefully about how far you want to take this, she said. Pain does not entitle you to destroy a family. I looked at her pearls, her perfect lipstick, her pale gloves. I did not destroy your family. You could have handled this. Privately, I did, for 8 years. She leaned closer. Her perfume was expensive and suffocating. Noah is a child, Ethan is his father. You cannot erase that because your pride is wounded. My pride is not what bled on that hospital floor. For one moment, she had nothing, then she recovered. Come to the house tomorrow. We will discuss a reasonable arrangement. There is no arrangement. There must be. No, you are still Ethan's wife. I opened my car door wider. For now, Margaret's eyes narrowed. Do not make an enemy of me, Olivia. I got into the car. I did not make you anything, I said through the open window. I only stopped pretending you were on my side. I drove away before she could answer at the first intersection. I pulled over and sent Rachel one more message. Margaret knew. Rachel replied, then tomorrow is not a family meeting. It is a trap. Bring me whatever they ask you to sign. I looked at the hospital envelope on the passenger seat 3 years ago. I had left. St. Mercy empty, dizzy, and apologizing to nurses for bleeding on their sheets. Today, I left with certified records and no apologies left in me. Ethan called again. This time I answered. His voice was rough. Olivia, where were you? Silence. I could hear him breathing. Do not do this over the phone, he said. You did it in a hospital. Another silence, then, softer. It was complicated. No, I said, it was cruel. He swallowed audibly. I was going to tell you. You told me you were in Boston. I panicked. The word hung there. He had panicked then because he had been caught between 2 women in 2 hospital rooms. He was panicking now because one of those women had stopped bleeding for him. I have the records, I said. His breath changed. Olivia, listen to me. I did, for 8 years. Then I hung up. Margaret's invitation arrived by courier, not a text, not a call, a cream envelope delivered to the front desk of the hotel where I had checked in under my maiden name, Mrs. Olivia Whitmore is requested at Whitmore House at 4 o'clock for a private family consultation regarding the future stability of all concerned parties. Requested private stability. Whitmore words were always upholstered. You had to press hard to feel the nails underneath. Rachel read the card in her office and laughed once without humor. They really do think they own grammar. I sat across from her with coffee I had not touched. Her office overlooked downtown, all glass and hard sunlight. It looked nothing like the Whitmore estate. No portraits, no flowers, no silver-framed photographs of people pretending not to hate each other. Just books, files, a framed diploma, and a small plant that seemed determined to survive neglect. Should I go? I asked. Yes. I looked up. Rachel held up one finger. Not because they deserve the meeting, because they are going to put something in front of you, and I want to know exactly what it is. They will not let you come, of course not. That is why you will record notes immediately after, refuse to sign anything, and bring me every page. I am allowed to take documents. If they ask you to sign, you are allowed to review. If they refuse to let you review, that tells us something too. I nodded. Rachel leaned forward. Olivia, listen carefully. They are shifting from emotional pressure to legal pressure. That means your silence is working. My silence, my whole marriage had taught me silence was weakness. Smile through dinner, stand beside him. Do not correct Margaret in front of donors. Do not ask about Sienna in hallways. Do not ruin Christmas. Do not make Noah feel unwanted. Do not embarrass the family. But now silence had changed shape. It was no longer swallowing pain. It was withholding access. At 4 o'clock, I drove to Whitmore House. The estate sat behind iron gates on 14 acres of old trees and newer money. Ethan's grandfather had bought it from a bankrupt railroad family and then spent decades pretending Whitmores had always belonged there. I had once loved the long drive, the view of the stone house appearing between maples, the way Ethan would place his hand on my knee and say, "One day, this will feel like home." It never had. A staff member opened the door before I rang. Mrs. Whitmore, Anna, her eyes flickered with concern. She had worked there since before my wedding. I wondered what version Margaret had told the staff. Difficult wife, emotional wife, ungrateful wife. The exact wording mattered less than the purpose. Make my pain look like poor manners. They are in the East Study, Anna said. They, of course. Margaret sat behind her husband's old mahogany desk as if born there. Ethan stood by the fireplace. Sienna sat in a side chair with Noah beside her, coloring on a small pad. A family lawyer named Leonard Pierce arranged papers in front of an empty chair. I stopped at the threshold. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. Margaret's eyebrows lifted. Excuse me, you said private family consultation. I will not discuss legal documents in front of Sienna or Noah. Sienna's face tightened. This concerns my son, it concerns my marriage. Ethan stepped forward. Olivia, do not start. I looked at Noah. He held a green crayon in one hand and stared at me with wide eyes. My anger moved around him like water around a stone. No child should sit through this, I said for a moment. No one spoke. Then Anna appeared behind me, as if summoned by mercy. Mrs. Vale, she said softly, there are cookies in the morning room. Sienna hesitated. Margaret gave a small nod. Sienna stood, humiliated but still playing delicate. Come on, sweetheart. Noah slid off the chair. As they passed me, he looked up. Are you mad at Daddy? The room froze. I crouched just enough to meet his eyes. I am mad at grown-up choices, I said, not at you. He seemed to consider that. Then Sienna pulled him away. The door closed. Ethan looked uncomfortable. Good, I sat. Leonard Pierce cleared his throat. Mrs. Whitmore, we appreciate your willingness to discuss this matter in a calm setting. I have not agreed to discuss anything. I agreed to listen. Margaret's lips thinned. Leonard adjusted his glasses. The family believes the current situation requires clarity. Rachel had warned me. When wealthy people said clarity, they meant compliance. He slid a document toward me. Whitmore Family Trust Amendment Proposal. I did not touch it at first. Ethan's voice softened. Olivia, this is only to make sure Noah is protected. I looked at him. The child you hid for 3 years. His face tightened. The child who exists. Yes, I said, he exists. So do consequences. Margaret leaned forward. Enough. Noah is a Whitmore. We will not allow him to be treated as shameful. I did not shame him. Ethan did. Her eyes flashed. I picked up the document. The first pages were predictable. Language about dependence, family continuity, educational support, medical care. Then the hooks appeared. Recognition of Noah Vale as a beneficiary under selected Whitmore family instruments. Acknowledgement by Olivia Harper Whitmore that such recognition does not constitute marital misconduct for purposes of current or future proceedings. Waiver of objection to prior support payments made for the benefit of minor child. Agreement not to contest use of shared household resources already expended in connection with said support. I kept reading. Ethan shifted by the fireplace. Then I found the real blade. Upon execution, Olivia Harper Whitmore agrees to maintain current foundation representation through the next fiscal year and waives independent claims relating to reputational damages arising from the matter. I turned the page. There was more. In the event of marital dissolution, Olivia Harper Whitmore agrees to transition foundation chair responsibilities to a Whitmore-appointed representative and waives claim to independent donor relationships developed during her marriage. I almost smiled. There it was. Not just Noah, not just family. They wanted me to sign away my leverage, forgive the financial misuse, protect Ethan's reputation, and hand over the foundation relationships I had built, all while calling it stability for a child. I placed the document back on the desk. No, Leonard blinked. You have not finished reviewing. I have seen enough. Ethan pushed away from the fireplace. Olivia, no. Margaret's voice sharpened. Do you understand what refusing this implies? That I can read? Her face hardened. Do not be flippant. Then do not insult me with a trap. Leonard lifted both hands. Mrs. Whitmore, I assure you, this is standard protective language. For whom? He paused. I looked at Ethan. Did you read it? His silence answered. Of course you did. I said, you knew exactly what it said. He came closer. I knew it protected Noah. It protects you. It protects the family. There it is. Margaret stood. You are part of this family. No, I said. I was labor for this family. The words surprised even me. Once spoken, they filled the room. With years, every gala speech, every donor call, every apology I made for Ethan's absence, every time Margaret corrected my dress, my tone, my timing, my smile, every time I was told I represented the Whitmore name while Ethan treated mine like decoration. Ethan's voice dropped. You do not mean that. I do. He looked almost wounded. That might have touched me once. Now I saw the selfishness inside it. He was hurt because I had stopped protecting his image of himself. Margaret walked around the desk, pearls gleaming at her throat. Olivia, you are angry. I will allow that. But you are not thinking strategically. I am thinking more strategically than I ever have. You have no children. The room went silent. Even Leonard looked down. Margaret knew exactly what she had said. Ethan's face drained. Mother. She ignored him. Noah is Ethan's only child, she continued. The only living child connected to this family line. You may not like how this happened, but you cannot expect us to pretend he does not matter. My hands were cold for a moment. I saw the hospital ceiling again, the nurse's gloved hand, blue ink on consent forms, Ethan's unanswered calls. Then I saw Margaret in the parking lot saying unfortunate. I stood. Do not ever use the child I lost to pressure me into protecting the affair that cost me my marriage. Margaret's face changed, a flicker, not remorse, alarm that she had gone too far in front of Leonard. Ethan took a step toward me. Olivia, stop. No, I should have stopped years ago. I picked up the document. Leonard reached out. Mrs. Whitmore, those copies are not final. Then you will have no trouble sending a final version to my attorney. Ethan's head snapped up. Your attorney? Yes. Margaret's voice was low. You brought a lawyer into this family. I laughed softly. You brought a mistress and a child into my anniversary dinner. No one answered. I folded the document and placed it in my bag. Ethan followed me into the hall. Olivia, wait. I kept walking. He caught up near the front door. This is getting out of control. No, it is getting documented. His face tightened. Rachel is filling your head. Rachel is reading what you hoped I would not. You think a divorce will make you happier. I stopped and turned. There it was, his first use of the word divorce. Not from me, from him. He looked as if he wanted to pull it back. I did not say that, he said. You did. I meant if you keep acting like this, you will force things into a place neither of us wants. I looked at the man I had loved, or the man I had built out of the pieces he allowed me to see. Ethan, I said, you already forced things there. I am only arriving with paperwork. His mouth opened behind him, through the half-open study door. Margaret's voice cut across the hall. She will calm down. She always does. I looked at Ethan. He heard it too, for once. He did not defend me for once. I did not wait for him to. I opened the front door. Outside, the winter air struck my face, clean and sharp. Olivia, Ethan said behind me. Quieter now. I paused. What do you want from me? He asked. That was the saddest part. After 8 years, he still thought my pain was a negotiation. I looked back. Nothing. The word frightened him more than any demand could have. I got into my car and drove straight to Rachel's office. She read the trust document once. Then again. By the third page, her expression had gone flat. This is not a family arrangement, she said. I know. She tapped the waiver clause with her pen. This is a confession. Wearing a sweater, despite everything. I laughed. Rachel looked up. I am serious. They know there are financial exposure issues. They know your foundation role matters. They know the prior payments are vulnerable. They are trying to get you to launder the affair legally after the fact. Can we use it? Oh, absolutely. She scanned the pages, saved copies, and placed the original in a folder labeled Whitmore Trust Attempt. I liked that. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Please do not let lawyers turn this into war. I stared at the screen. Then I replied, you should have thought of peace before you brought witnesses. I sent it. Rachel grinned. That one I approve. A second later, Ethan called. I declined this time. I did not even watch the whole screen light up. The foundation office occupied the top 2 floors of a restored brick building downtown. I had chosen that building 5 years earlier after convincing Ethan that a charity dedicated to housing access should not operate from a glass tower above a luxury hotel. He had laughed then and said, you make moral optics sound like architecture. I had replied, that is because it is. He used to love that about me when it served him. By Monday morning, he hated it. I arrived at 8 with coffee in one hand and a signed letter in the other. My assistant, Clara, looked up from her desk and froze. Mrs. Whitmore, she said softly, good morning. Her eyes flicked to my left hand. Everyone's did now. I did not hide it. Is Maya here? I asked. In the conference room, Please ask the executive team to join us at 8:30. Clara hesitated. Mr. Whitmore's office called, twice. I am sure they did. What should I tell them? That foundation operations are under internal review and all requests must be made in writing. Clara blinked. Then she smiled just slightly. Yes, at 8:30. The conference room filled with people who had spent years pretending not to know more than they admitted. Program directors, finance staff, legal liaison, communications. Maya sat near the screen with her laptop open, expression composed. I stood at the head of the table. I will keep this brief, I said, effective immediately. I am suspending discretionary disbursements tied to external consulting, donor relations, event strategy, or family-directed special projects pending independent review. No one moved. Then Daniel from communications raised a hand halfway. Does Mr. Whitmore know he will receive written notice? That answer traveled around the table without sound. I continued. No vendor payments will be processed without documentation of deliverables, no verbal approvals, no backdated memos, no family exceptions. The legal liaison, Peter, shifted in his chair. That may slow gala preparations. Then gala preparations will slow. Some donors expect continuity. They will receive transparency. Maya looked down, hiding what might have been a smile. I placed the signed letter on the table. Additionally, I am formally revoking my spousal representation authorization for any Whitmore family communications unrelated to existing foundation programming. No statement may be issued using my name, likeness, title, or marital status without my written approval. Peter's face lost color. Mrs. Whitmore, he said carefully, that authorization has been in place for years. Yes, it is central to public positioning. I know, that was why I was removing it. The room understood maybe. Not all of it, but enough. For years, the foundation had benefited from the image of Ethan and me as the elegant couple who cared about housing, education, medical access, and community renewal. Donors trusted my speeches because I wrote them. Families trusted our grants because I showed up after cameras left. Reporters softened their language because I answered questions Ethan avoided. My marriage had been the wrapping on his credibility. I was taking the wrapping off after the meeting. Maya stayed behind. You know this will trigger a response, she said. It already has. She nodded toward the hallway through the glass wall. I saw Ethan striding past Clara's desk. He did not look at reception. He did not ask permission again. No knocking. He entered the conference room and shut the door behind him. Maya stood. Stay, I said. Ethan's eyes snapped to her. This is private. No, I said. This is about foundation operations. His face hardened. Maya, leave. Maya looked at me. I said. You may go if you want to. She gathered her laptop, not hurried, not frightened at the door. She turned to Ethan. For the record, Mr. Whitmore, I will be preserving all communications related to vendor payments. Then she left. Ethan stared after her when he turned back. His face had changed from anger to calculation. What have you done? He asked. I sent written notice. To whom? Foundation legal, finance, communications, independent counsel, and the board secretary. His jaw tightened. Without consulting me. Yes, you cannot unilaterally freeze operations. I froze discretionary payments pending review. Same thing. No, one is governance, the other is panic. His eyes flashed. Do not talk to me like I am one of your staff, then stop behaving like a compliance problem. For a moment, I thought he might shout. Instead, he lowered his voice. That was worse. Ethan only lowered his voice when he wanted to sound dangerous without witnesses hearing. You are damaging donor confidence. You damaged donor confidence when you routed money to a shell consultant connected to your mistress. His face went still. There it was, the word in daylight. Mistress. Not in a library, not in a bedroom, not during a fight. In a conference room where glass walls made privacy decorative. Be careful, he said. You do not understand the scale of what you are interfering with. I do. That is why I am interfering. He walked to the table and placed both hands on it. The foundation is tied to company projects, municipal partnerships, lender relationships, tax planning, and public reputation. If you pull threads without understanding the structure, you could collapse things that have nothing to do with our marriage. Our marriage is in the structure because you put it there. His eyes held mine for the first time. He looked less angry than afraid, not enough to stop, but enough to know I had reached something vital. This is between us, he said. No, you made it financial, you made it legal, you made it public when you brought them to dinner. I am only refusing to keep it fictional. He straightened. Sienna is not a shell vendor. Then she will have deliverables. His mouth closed. I opened the folder in front of me and removed a printed invoice. Vale Consulting, $48,000, donor relations strategy, no attached plan, no call notes, no deliverable, no board memo. That was handled verbally. Not anymore. He reached for the paper. I pressed my hand over it. Do not touch evidence. The words came out before I planned them. Ethan stared at my hand, then at my face. Something passed through his expression. Memory, maybe, or the recognition that the woman he thought he knew had learned a language he could not charm his way through. Olivia, he said, quieter, you are making me your enemy. No, you are finding out I am no longer your shield. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen and answered sharply. What? I could hear a man's voice through the speaker, though not the words. Ethan's face darkened. Tell them the audit is routine. A pause. No statement. Another pause. I said no statement. He ended the call. Reporters? I asked. He glared. The gala was 2 weeks away. Donors, board members, local officials, journalists, and half the city's social machinery would attend. Normally I would spend this period smoothing every wrinkle before it appeared. Ethan knew that. Margaret knew that. Everyone knew that. This time, I was not smoothing, I was documenting wrinkles. Ethan slid his phone into his pocket. You will attend the gala. Yes. You will give the opening remarks. Yes. You will not mention this. I looked at him. You do not get to write my speech anymore. I never wrote your speeches. No, you only benefited from them. His expression tightened again. You think humiliating me will heal you? No. Then why? Because truth belongs in the room where lies raised money. He looked at me as if he could not decide whether to threaten me or apologize. He chose the old third option. You are tired, he said. You have been under pressure. Come home tonight. We can talk without everyone feeding this. I almost admired the pivot from danger to concern, from anger to husband. The same man who had told me not to embarrass him now softened his voice as if tenderness were a key he could still use. I am not coming home, I said. His face changed. Where are you staying? Somewhere safe. With Rachel? No. Tell me where. No. His eyes widened slightly again. That one syllable. He hated it. You are my wife. I am also an adult. We are not strangers. No, I said. Strangers are less disappointing. He flinched. I saw it for 1 second. I wanted to take it back, not because it was untrue, because 8 years of marriage had trained me to manage even the pain I caused in self-defense. I did not take it back. Clara knocked on the glass door and opened it a crack. Mrs. Whitmore, security is asking about Ms. Vale. Every muscle in Ethan's face tightened. I turned slowly. What about her? She is downstairs. She says she has an appointment with you. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. Damn it, Sienna. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because he sounded inconvenienced. As if the woman he had installed inside our life had begun touching furniture he preferred she not touch. Tell security she does not have access to foundation floors, I said. Clara nodded. Ethan moved toward the door. I will handle it. No, I said. He stopped. I will. Downstairs. Sienna stood in the lobby with Noah beside her and a camera crew outside the glass doors. A small local lifestyle outlet, one I recognized. They had covered foundation events before. Sienna knew exactly what she was doing. She smiled when she saw me. Olivia, she said, voice gentle enough for microphones. I only wanted to talk. I glanced at Noah. He held a toy dinosaur, again a child brought to an adult battlefield. I crouched slightly. Hi, Noah. He lifted the dinosaur. This is Rex. He looks strong. He bites bad guys. I bet he does. Sienna's smile tightened. Then I stood. You do not have an appointment, I said. I wanted to discuss how to avoid hurting Noah, then stop bringing him to places where adults are fighting over documents. The camera outside shifted closer. Sienna's eyes flicked toward it. Perfect. I turned to the security supervisor. Please escort Ms. Vale and her child out kindly. No footage of the child is to be encouraged or used by this office. The supervisor nodded. Sienna stepped closer. You cannot keep pretending he does not exist. I am not pretending anything. I am refusing to turn a 3-year-old into your press strategy. Her face went pale, the camera caught that. Ethan arrived behind me just in time to hear it. Olivia, he said warningly. I did not look back. Sienna looked between us, realizing too late that the soft public ambush had not produced the bitter wife footage she wanted. Instead, I had protected Noah from the camera and made her look like the one using him. Security escorted her out. Noah waved Rex over his shoulder. I waved back. Ethan stood beside me in the lobby, silent outside. Sienna argued with the camera crew. Her mouth moved too sharply for innocence. You should not have done that, Ethan said. I turned to him. Protected your son from being filmed. His face worked for once. There was no clean answer. My phone buzzed. A notification from the home security system. Motion detected. Whitmore residence. Second floor study. I frowned. I had not gone home. Ethan was here. Margaret would not use the side entrance. I opened the feed. The screen showed Sienna inside my house, in my study, pulling open drawers. A second notification arrived. Motion detected. Document cabinet. Ethan looked at the screen. His face went white. For 3 seconds, neither of us moved. On my phone screen, Sienna stood inside my study wearing the same pale coat she had worn in the foundation lobby. She had left the building with Noah, argued outside for cameras, then gone straight to my house. No, our house. The legal distinction mattered, even if the emotional one was already dead. She opened the second drawer of my desk and lifted a stack of folders. Her movements were quick and practiced, not the frantic searching of someone confused, the focused sorting of someone who had been told what to find. Ethan reached for my phone. I stepped back. Do not. His hand froze. Olivia, he said, voice low, give me the phone. No, that is my house too. And my evidence. His face tightened. I need to call her. Use your own phone. He did. Sienna did not answer on the feed. She moved toward the file cabinet near the window. That cabinet held old foundation notes, personal tax records, and copies of documents I had not trusted Ethan's office to store. It also held nothing Rachel did not already have. That was not the point. The point was that Sienna had a key code. I looked at Ethan. What code did she use? His mouth opened, closed. I smiled. Without warmth. That one you can answer without a lawyer. She should not be there. That was not the question. I gave her an emergency code when Noah was sick once and I needed paperwork from the house. I stared at him. You gave your mistress access to my home. It was not like that. It is on camera exactly like that. He dragged a hand through his hair. I forgot she still had it. You forget many convenient things. On the screen, Sienna pulled a blue folder from the cabinet. My chest tightened. The trust document copy. She flipped through it, then spoke aloud. The camera audio was faint but clear enough. Where did she put the signed version? Ethan swore. I looked at him. The signed version. He shook his head. I do not know what she means. For the first time, I believed that he might not. Sienna was not only following his plan, she was following her own. I pressed the security app and selected the option to save the clip. Then I called the house manager. Anna, I said when she answered. Are you at the house? Yes, Mrs. Whitmore. Please go to the second floor study with another staff member. Do not confront Ms. Vale alone. Tell her she is trespassing in a private office and that she needs to leave immediately. Keep your phone recording if you feel safe doing so. Anna inhaled sharply. Ms. Vale is here. Yes, I will get Marcus. Thank you. Ethan stared at me. Do not involve staff. She involved herself when she entered my study. She may have misunderstood. I turned the phone toward him on screen. Sienna opened a desk drawer and removed a small box where I kept spare keys, old business cards, and the flash drive Maya had given me. My flash drive. My pulse kicked once. Then I remembered the drive in that box was empty. The real one was with Rachel. Sienna held it up and smiled, a cold little smile. No trembling now, no wounded mother, no soft voice, just satisfaction. Then Anna entered the frame with Marcus, the ground supervisor. Sienna's face transformed instantly. It was almost beautiful. The speed of it. She clutched the folder to her chest. I was looking for Ethan. He told me I could come. Anna stood in the doorway. Mrs. Whitmore has asked that you leave the study. This is Ethan's house, Marcus said. Please come downstairs. Sienna's voice rose. Do not touch me. I am here for my son's future. Ethan closed his eyes. I kept watching. Anna said, no one is touching you. Please put down Mrs. Whitmore's documents. Sienna looked toward the camera for the first time. She realized it was there. Her expression broke, then anger flashed through. Of course, she said. Of course she records everything. Ethan said she would make herself the victim. I felt Ethan look at me. I did not look back on the screen. Sienna threw the folder onto the desk. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. Once she signs, Noah is safe. That was the whole point. Anna went still. Marcus looked at the camera, then away. Ethan whispered, Sienna, stop talking, but she could not hear him. Sienna grabbed her bag and pushed past Anna. The feed ended as the study emptied. I saved the full clip twice, then forwarded it to Rachel. Her reply came quickly. Excellent. Do not discuss this with either of them. Ethan's phone rang. Sienna, he answered instantly and turned away. What the hell were you doing? I could hear her voice, sharp and high. She trapped me. You went into her study. You told me she had the papers. I told you nothing like that. Margaret said if Olivia signed, everything would be protected. Ethan looked over his shoulder at me. I raised my eyebrows. He ended the call without saying goodbye. For a few seconds, the foundation lobby continued around us. Staff moved carefully. Phones rang. The outside camera crew had finally left. Clara pretended not to watch from reception and failed. Ethan said, this is not what you think. It rarely is. It is usually worse. Margaret wanted the trust handled. Sienna is anxious. She overstepped. She broke into my study using a code you gave her. She did not break in. She used a code. That is the defense you want to try. His mouth shut. I walked toward the elevators. He followed. Where are you going? To the house? No, I will go. You are not in charge of my documents. I said I will handle it. I pressed the elevator button. The doors opened. I stepped inside. Ethan entered before they closed. For 10 floors, we stood side by side in polished silence. I could see our reflection in the elevator doors. We looked like a couple leaving a business meeting. Beautiful clothes, controlled faces, 2 people whose damage had been tailored well. At the parking level, Ethan spoke. Do you hate him? I turned. Noah. His voice was rougher now, less defensive. Maybe the camera had cracked something. No, I said. I hate what you are doing with him. He looked down. He is my son. I know. I cannot abandon him. I never asked you to. Then what do you want? I almost laughed again. That question, as if there were a version of this where he could give me one thing and keep all the rest. I want you to stop asking me to pay for your betrayal. He looked at me. And for a moment I saw the man I used to wait for, the one who almost understood after damage was done, the one who would look stricken enough that I would soften. I had mistaken that look for remorse so many times. Now I knew it was fear of consequence. We drove separately to the house. By the time I arrived, Sienna was gone. Anna met me in the foyer, pale but steady. I am sorry, Mrs. Whitmore. You did nothing wrong. She was very upset. I know. Anna glanced behind me at Ethan, then lowered her voice. I recorded from the hallway like you asked. Thank you. She sent me the file. Ethan looked as if he wanted to object and thought better of it. In the study, drawers remained open. Papers were scattered across the desk. The blue folder lay where Sienna had thrown it. I took photos before touching anything. Then I put on a pair of thin gloves from the stationery drawer because Rachel's voice had taken up permanent residence in my head. Preserve records. Ethan watched from the doorway. You do not need to treat your own house like a crime scene. I looked up. Someone entered my office and searched my files for a signed legal document that does not exist. His eyes shifted. You did not sign. No. Relief crossed his face so quickly it enraged me. Were you hoping I had? I asked. No. You looked relieved. I am relieved. You did not sign something under pressure. Pressure from whom? He did not answer. I gathered the papers slowly. Then I found something Sienna had dropped. A folded note in Margaret's handwriting. 2nd floor study. Blue folder. If signed, bring copy. Do not engage. Oh, not Olivia. Oh. An initial was colder than a name. I held it up. Ethan stared at it. For once, his shock looked real. I placed the note in a plastic sleeve. Your mother is efficient. He rubbed his forehead. I did not know she wrote that. But you knew enough. He looked at me. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the heater. My desk still held the silver frame from our wedding. In the photo, Ethan smiled at me as if I were the best thing that had ever happened to him. I wondered whether he had believed it for the length of the shutter click. Sienna called again. He ignored it. My phone buzzed too. Rachel just read the clip. This is leverage. Also, I filed notice preserving foundation and household security footage. Do not let them delete Anything, I replied, already saved. Then I looked at Ethan. I am changing the house codes. He flinched. Olivia. And the alarm permissions. This is still my home. It is no longer hers. He stepped inside the study. You think locking doors will solve this? No, I said. But it is a start. His shoulders dropped slightly. That small deflation did something unexpected. It did not soften me. It made me sad, not the kind of sadness that pulls you back, the kind that confirms you have already left. Ethan looked at the wedding photo on my desk. We were happy once, he said. I followed his gaze in the picture. I was laughing. Full face, full trust, full life. My hand rested on his chest, ring bright, eyes lifted toward him. We were useful to you once, I said. He looked at me sharply. That is not fair. No, I said, it was not. I opened the frame, removed the photograph, and placed it face down in a drawer. Ethan watched as if I had burned it. Maybe I had. The Whitmore Foundation Gala was built to look effortless. It never was. 300 guests, 42 tables, 12 major sponsors, 6 municipal officials, 2 senators, 1 carefully selected youth speaker. A silent auction arranged by people who understood that wealthy donors preferred generosity when it came with champagne and good lighting. For 5 years, I had run the gala like a battlefield disguised as a ballroom. This year, everyone assumed I would do it again. That was their mistake. At noon, I arrived at the Grand Meridian Hotel with Clara, Maya, and a revised speech printed in a plain black folder. The ballroom was already alive with staff moving floral arrangements, testing microphones, measuring table distances, steaming linens, checking donor cards, and solving disasters guests would never know had existed. This was the world where I had become valuable, not because I was Ethan's wife, because I knew how to make chaos invisible. Clara walked beside me with a tablet. Table 12 is asking whether Mr. and Mrs. Halpern can be moved away from Councilman Reed. No, they can behave for 2 hours. The Children's Hospital director wants to confirm whether Mr. Whitmore is still introducing the video. No, program change. I will introduce it. Clara looked up. I kept walking. And Sienna Vale? She asked quietly. What about her? She is not on the guest list. But hotel security says Mrs. Whitmore Sr. requested 2 additional credentials. Margaret, of course. Names, Sienna Vale and Noah Vale. I stopped beside the stage for 1 second. The ballroom noise dimmed. They were going to do it publicly, not by accident, not through gossip, not as background shame. Margaret intended to use the gala cameras, the donors, and the family photo line to force a new reality. If I stood beside Ethan while Sienna and Noah appeared as part of the Whitmore family circle, my silence would become consent, photos would become proof, headlines would become history. I turned to Clara. No credentials are to be issued under my office. She said it came from the family. This event is under foundation governance. No unauthorized guest credentials. Clara's shoulders straightened. Understood. By 4, Margaret arrived in emerald silk and pearls sharp enough to cut glass. She found me backstage reviewing the sponsor list. You changed the seating chart, she said. Yes, you removed Sienna. She was never on it. Her eyes hardened. Noah is Ethan's son, and a minor child not connected to this foundation program. This is not about programs. I agree. That is why he should not be used here. Margaret stepped closer. Around us, staff pretended not to hear while hearing everything. You will not humiliate this family tonight. Then I suggest everyone behave. You are angry with Ethan. Fine. Punish him privately if you must. But do not punish a child by excluding him. I am protecting him from cameras you invited. Her mouth tightened. There it was again. The inconvenience of my refusing the wrong role. Before she could answer, Ethan appeared behind her in a black tuxedo, looking expensive and exhausted. He had not slept either. I could tell by the faint shadows under his eyes and the fact that his hair had been touched too many times. Mother, he said, give us a minute. Margaret did not move. You need to control this. He looked at me. I smiled faintly. Wrong word. Margaret. Ethan heard it too. His face tightened. I will speak with Olivia. Margaret left, but not before delivering one final sentence. The family portrait happens at 7. I turned back to my folder. Ethan waited until she was gone. There does not need to be a fight tonight. Then stop starting one. Sienna wants Noah acknowledged. Sienna wants access. He is my son. Yes, your son. Not a foundation initiative. His jaw flexed. You keep saying things like that. Accurate things. Cruel things. I looked at him, then really looked. He stood under backstage lights in the tuxedo I had chosen months ago. I knew his measurements, his preferred collar style, which side he favored in photographs, the exact expression he used when pretending humility during applause. I knew so many useless details about a man who had hidden an entire life from me. Cruel, I repeated. Something in my voice made him look away. He lowered his tone. I know I hurt you. No, you know you are losing control. That is not fair. You keep saying that as if fairness survived you. He closed his eyes. Briefly, when he opened them, the anger had been replaced by something softer and more dangerous. Do you want me to end it with Sienna? The question landed with a dull thud. Once, that sentence would have broken me open with hope. Once, I would have asked, really, do you mean it? Will you choose me? Will we go to therapy? Will you change? Will you finally become the husband I kept defending? Now I only heard what he had not said. I am sorry, I was wrong, I will take responsibility. He offered me the removal of another woman as if my marriage were a subscription he could cancel to retain service. No, I said. His brows drew together. No, you cannot end your way back to me. He stared before he could answer. A hotel staffer approached. Mrs. Whitmore, press line in 15. I will be there. Ethan stepped closer once the staffer left. What are you planning to say tonight? My speech, Olivia. My speech, Ethan. You know what I mean. Yes. He waited. I did not explain. That was another old door closing at 6:30. The ballroom filled with voices, perfume, camera flashes, and the soft clink of money pretending to be compassion. I moved through the room with the calm precision of muscle memory. Donors smiled. Some looked at my bare hand. Some looked past me for Ethan. Some avoided mentioning anything because wealthy gossip worked best when disguised as manners. Rachel arrived in a black dress and stood near the back like a warning in heels. Maya stayed close to the finance table at 6:50. Clara touched my elbow. She is here. I turned. Sienna stood at the side entrance wearing pale gold, with Noah in a tiny suit beside her. Margaret stood behind them. Ethan, across the room, saw them at the same time. His face changed, not surprise, resignation, so he knew maybe not every detail, but enough. Sienna looked around the ballroom with wide eyes, playing overwhelmed. Noah held her hand and stared at the chandeliers. My anger moved, then steadied, not at him, never at him, at the adults arranging him like evidence. Margaret lifted her chin toward the photographer's area. Family portrait. I could see the trap clearly. Ethan and I in the center, Margaret beside us, Sienna nearby with Noah, maybe not too close at first, then a small shift, a child pulled forward, a caption later, Whitmore family united at annual foundation gala, speculation neutralized, Olivia's silence archived. Sienna approached with a soft smile. Olivia, she said, I hope we can be gracious tonight. Noah should wait in the family lounge with a staff member. Her smile froze. Excuse me, this event is not suitable for him. He wanted to see his father speak. Ethan is not speaking. Margaret snapped. Since when? Since the program changed. Ethan arrived beside us. Olivia, I turned to him. Would you like to explain why a 3-year-old is standing in the middle of a donor media line? His eyes flicked to Noah. For the first time that night, he seemed to see the child as a child, not a symbol. He crouched. Hey, buddy. Noah smiled. Daddy, there are lights. I know. Ethan's voice softened. You should go have cookies with Anna. Okay. Sienna's hand tightened. Ethan. He stood. Not here. She stared at him. Margaret whispered, do not be weak. I almost laughed. This was not strength. It was a man realizing a camera could capture the wrong kind of truth. A staff member led Noah away after I personally confirmed he would be watched safely. Sienna looked furious for half a second before smoothing her face. Then the press line began. Ethan reached for my waist when the first photographer lifted his camera. I stepped away. Flash. His hand hung in empty air. Another flash. Someone noticed. Then everyone noticed. Mrs. Whitmore, a reporter called. Will you and Mr. Whitmore be presenting together tonight? I smiled. The Foundation's program has been updated to reflect our new governance priorities. It was the kind of sentence journalists heard as blood in water. Ethan leaned close. Do not. I looked at him. You should have said that to yourself. At 7:30, I stood behind the stage curtain while the host introduced me. My revised speech rested in my hands. The old version thanked my husband for his leadership, Margaret for her legacy, and the Whitmore family for believing in stable homes. The new version thanked none of them. Rachel stood near the back wall. She checked her phone, then looked up and nodded. The court filing was ready. Maya stood near the finance table with the audit packet. Clara adjusted my microphone with hands that trembled slightly. "You are okay," she whispered. I looked through the curtain gap. Ethan sat at the head table, eyes fixed on me. Margaret sat beside him, rigid with irritation. Sienna had taken a seat near the side, no longer smiling. Donors waited with champagne glasses and curiosity for 8 years. I had entered rooms to protect Ethan. Tonight, I entered one to stop protecting him. "I am okay," I said. Then I walked onto the stage. Applause rose before I reached the podium. It always did. That was one of the first things Ethan taught me about rooms like this. People clapped for wealth before they heard a word. They clapped for names, gowns, donor lists, and the comforting belief that the people on stage deserved to be there. I placed my folder on the podium and looked out at the ballroom. 300 faces looked back, some friendly, some curious, some predatory. News of marital damage moved through elite rooms faster than champagne. I knew half these people had spent cocktail hour watching my hand, Ethan's jaw, Sienna's entrance, Margaret's posture. Good, let them watch. "Good evening," I said. The room settled. For 5 years, I have stood on this stage and spoken about home. Ethan's eyes held mine from the head table. He already knew not the exact speech, but the direction of the blade. "I have told you stories about families receiving keys, students receiving scholarships, mothers leaving shelters, veterans signing leases, and communities being rebuilt one block at a time." I paused. That work is real. The people it serves are real, and because they are real, they deserve more than beautiful language. They deserve transparency. The room changed, not loudly. Wealthy discomfort was subtle. A lowered glass, a shifted chair, a glance toward the head table. I continued. "Effective this week, the Whitmore Family Foundation has initiated an independent review of all discretionary vendor payments, consulting contracts, and donor relations expenditures connected to foundation-sponsored events." A murmur moved through the ballroom. Ethan stood halfway. Margaret gripped his wrist. I saw it, so did the front tables. I turned one page. "This review is not a retreat from our mission, it is a protection of it. No foundation bearing my name, my labor, or my public representation will ask for trust while refusing accountability." The applause did not come this time. That was fine. Silence could be more useful. I looked toward Maya. She lifted the audit packet. "Just slightly. Until that review is complete, certain payments have been suspended. External vendors will be asked to provide documentation of services. Any funds found to have been misdirected will be recovered or reported through proper channels." Sienna's face drained of color. Her hands moved under the table, probably reaching for her phone. Ethan did stand then. "Olivia," he said, his voice carried. Every head turned. For years, he had used public rooms to control private truth. A hand at my back, a warning look, a quiet, "Not here." He believed manners would force me to yield. I looked at him from the stage. "Yes, Ethan." The microphone caught it. A few people inhaled. He realized too late that he had stepped into the room I now controlled. He forced a smile. "Perhaps this is a board matter more suited for another time." I smiled too. It became tonight's matter when foundation credibility became part of tonight's program. His eyes hardened. Margaret whispered something to him. I looked back at the audience. "I will also be stepping down from any role that requires me to represent the Whitmore marriage as part of the foundation's public identity." This time, the murmur was louder. A reporter near the side lifted her phone. "I did not mention Sienna. I did not mention Noah. I did not mention the hospital. I did not need to." The room could smell scandal without being fed meat. "My work with housing access will continue through an independent structure with full compliance review and donor protections. Those details will be shared with affected partners directly." I closed the folder. Then I looked at the head table. "For those who have supported the mission because you believed in me, thank you. I intend to remain worthy of that trust." Applause began at the back, not loud at first. Rachel, then Maya, then a woman from the children's clinic, then 2 donors I had personally brought into the foundation after spending months answering their questions. The applause spread unevenly, uncertain but real. Ethan remained standing, face pale beneath ballroom lights. Margaret did not clap. Sienna stared at me as if I had reached across the room and taken something from her hands. I had the story. After I stepped off stage, the host stumbled through a transition to the youth speaker. Poor girl, she deserved better timing, but she handled it beautifully. I watched from the side curtain, breathing evenly, while my phone filled with messages, some from donors, some from reporters, 3 from Ethan. Stop, we need to talk. Do not make me chase you through our own event. I almost smiled at the last one, our own event, still trying to share ownership of the room. After forfeiting the marriage, Rachel appeared beside me. Well, that was subtle by your standards. I thought it was restrained. That is why it worked. Maya joined us with a tablet. 3 board members want private briefings tomorrow. 2 sponsors asked whether their donations were affected. I told them no donor-designated funds are implicated at this stage. Good. Clara rushed over. Mrs. Whitmore, reporters are asking if this is connected to MS. Vale, who let them use her name. Clara winced. She did, of course she did. Across the ballroom, Sienna stood near the side exit with a lifestyle reporter. Her face had returned to wounded softness, one hand pressed near her collarbone. Ethan saw at the same time and moved toward her, then stopped because cameras watched for the first time. He could not comfort her without confirming the story. He could not stop me without looking guilty. He could not stand beside his mother without looking managed. He was trapped in a public room built from his own private choices. I walked toward the media area. Rachel muttered, "Careful, I am." Sienna saw me coming. The reporter turned, eyes bright. "Mrs. Whitmore," the reporter said, "can you comment on whether tonight's announcement relates to allegations involving MS. Vale's consulting company?" Sienna went still. I looked at the reporter. "The independent review will address documentation, deliverables, and payment authorization for all relevant vendors. I will not discuss a minor child, private medical matters, or ongoing legal review in a ballroom." The reporter blinked. It was an answer and a rebuke. She knew it. Sienna's mouth tightened. "You are making this sound criminal," she said. I turned to her. I said, "Documentation. You know what people will think." "No," I said. "I know what people will ask." She stepped closer, voice low enough that only those near us could hear. "You are punishing Noah." I held her gaze. "No, I am refusing to let you hide." Invoices behind him. Her face changed. The reporter heard that. So did Ethan, who arrived behind her a second too late. "Olivia," he said, very quietly. I looked at him. "You should take Sienna home before she says more." Sienna's eyes flashed. "Do not speak about me like I am staff." "I would not. Staff usually have records of their work." Rachel coughed behind me. Ethan's face went rigid. "Enough." The word cracked like a command. In the past, enough from Ethan meant I stopped. At dinners, in cars, in hallways, in our bedroom. Enough meant my pain had exceeded the space he allotted it. Tonight, I looked at him and said, "Yes." Then I walked away. He followed me backstage. "Olivia." I kept walking. "Olivia." I entered the smaller green room reserved for speakers. He came in behind me and shut the door. Rachel tried to follow. I held up a hand through the glass panel. She stopped but remained visible. "Good. Let him see I was not isolated." Ethan turned on me. "What the hell was that? A speech? You humiliated me." "No," I clarified. "Governance. Do not hide behind legal language. Do not hide behind a child." He flinched, then anger returned. "You think you are untouchable because you have Rachel and a few documents. No, I think I am reachable only through counsel now." His face changed. "You are serious?" "Yes." "About divorce?" The word sounded different in his mouth this time. Less threat, more wound. "Yes." He stared at me. For years, I had imagined this moment, Ethan realizing he could lose me. Ethan looking at me not as a fixture, not as a liability, not as the woman who would calm down, but as someone with a door in her hand. In my imagination, it had felt triumphant. In reality, it was quiet, painful, necessary. He took one step closer. "Olivia, do not do this to us." Us. There it was again, the ghost he summoned when he needed me to remember loving him. I thought of the anniversary table, the bank records, the hospital note, the trust document, Sienna in my study, Margaret saying I had no children. I looked at him. "There is no us." He swallowed. "You do not mean that." "I do." His voice lowered. "I love you." For 1 second, the old Olivia moved inside me, the woman who had lived years on crumbs. She lifted her head at those words because they had once been food, then she lay down again. "No, I said softly. You love being forgiven. His face broke, not fully. Ethan was still Ethan. Rich men learned early how much emotion to show before it cost them authority, but something in him cracked outside the glass. Rachel checked her watch. Maya appeared beside her. The gala continued beyond them, laughter and applause rising in waves as if my marriage had not just split open behind a hotel ballroom. Ethan looked through the glass too. They are watching, he said. Yes, he turned back. Is that what you wanted? No. It is what you chose when you made betrayal public. His phone buzzed, he ignored it. Mine buzzed too. Rachel filed. I looked at the message, then at Ethan. What? He asked. The petition is filed. He stared as if I had spoken another language. Already? Yes. You filed for divorce during the gala. No, I said. I filed before I walked on stage. He sat down heavily in the nearest chair for the first time all night. He looked like a man with no staff, no mother, no money, no mistress, no room left between action and consequence. Olivia, he whispered. I opened the door. Rachel stepped in. We are done here, she said. Ethan did not look at her, he looked at me. Do not leave like this. I picked up my black folder. I am not leaving like this, I said. I left at dinner. Tonight I only made it official. Then I walked back into the ballroom, past the donors, past the cameras, past Margaret's stunned face and Sienna's white one. Behind me, Ethan finally followed, not as a husband, as a man realizing the woman he expected to cry had learned how to end things. I hired movers for Thursday, not Monday, not immediately after the gala. Thursday. Rachel advised against sudden emotional gestures that could be twisted into abandonment of marital property. I appreciated the irony. Leaving a marriage required more logistics than surviving one for 3 days. I lived in the hotel, met with lawyers, answered selected donor emails, and ignored 4 to 6 messages from Ethan. They changed tone over time. At first, command, call me, then irritation, you are making this worse, then strategy, we need to align statements before media runs wild, then guilt, Noah does not understand why everyone is upset, then memory, I keep thinking about Cape May. Do you remember that little yellow house? I did remember. Our second year of marriage, rained for 4 days. We played cards on the floor and ate bad takeout, and Ethan made me laugh so hard I spilled wine on a rented rug. He had been mine then, I thought, or I had believed he was, which felt the same until it did not. His last message before Thursday came at 2:13 a.m. I do not know how to be in that house without you. That was the closest he had come to truth. At 9 Thursday morning, the moving truck arrived at the house. I came with Rachel, 2 movers, a locksmith, and a printed inventory. I wore jeans, a sweater, and flat shoes, practical clothes for dismantling a life. Anna opened the door. Her eyes were red. Oh, Anna, I said softly. I am sorry, she whispered. You do not need to be. She handed me an envelope. Some mail came for you. Inside were more cards, flowers, invitations, a handwritten note from a donor's wife who said, I do not know what happened, but I saw you on stage. I believed you. I put that one in my bag. The movers started in the bedroom. I took almost nothing Ethan had bought me after betrayals. Not the emerald bracelet from the year of the hotel scandal. Not the fur coat from the winter he disappeared for 3 days. Not the sapphire earrings he left on my pillow after I found Sienna's perfume on his shirt. They remained in velvet boxes on the dresser, sparkling like polished apologies that had failed their purpose. I packed my mother's photographs, my books, the blue legal folder, my journals, the framed certificate from the first housing initiative I built before the Whitmore name swallowed my work, in the closet. My dresses hung in color order because I had once believed controlling objects could make a marriage less chaotic. I selected only the ones I actually liked, not the gowns Margaret approved, not the suits Ethan said made me look trustworthy. Mine. Rachel stood in the doorway, checking items against the inventory. You are leaving the jewelry? Yes, even the pieces clearly gifted to you. I will discuss with counsel later. Today I do not want them touching my boxes. She nodded. Valid. At noon, rain began. By 12:30, Ethan came home. I heard his car before I saw him, the engine too fast on the gravel, the front door opening hard, his voice downstairs, sharp with Anna, then lower when she answered. He appeared in the bedroom doorway soaked from the rain, tie loose, hair damp, face stripped of the boardroom mask. The movers froze. Rachel turned. Mr. Whitmore. He ignored her. His eyes moved around the room, open drawers, half-empty closet, boxes labeled Olivia, personal, my side of the bed bare. What is this? He asked. I folded a sweater and placed it in a box. Moving. Stop. No one moved except me. I folded another sweater. Ethan stepped inside. I said stop. Rachel spoke. Mrs. Whitmore is removing personal property documented on the inventory. Do not interfere. He looked at her then. And for a second his face became ugly. This is my marriage, Rachel. No, she said. This is my client. The room went still. I almost loved her for that. Ethan turned back to me. Tell them to leave. No. He walked to the closet and grabbed a hanger. A navy dress swung between us. This is insane. You are packing like I died. I looked at him. No, I am packing because I did not. His face changed. The dress slipped from his hand. Olivia. I moved to the dresser and opened the top drawer. Inside was the hospital bracelet from 3 years ago. I had forgotten I kept it. A thin band of plastic with my name, the date, a barcode, proof that even the worst nights leave objects behind. I picked it up. Ethan saw it. All the anger drained from his face. Do not, he said. I turned toward him. Do not what? Use that. Use it. His throat moved, against me. I stared at him. Even now, even with my closet empty and his marriage collapsing around him, he saw my pain as something I might unfairly deploy. I held out the bracelet. Where were you? He looked away. Answer me here, I said. In the room where I slept beside you afterward, where you told me Boston, where you held me while I apologized for being sad. His eyes closed. The movers quietly left the room. Rachel stayed. Where were you? I asked again. He sat on the edge of the bed, as if his legs no longer trusted him. At St. Mercy, with Sienna. Yes, when I called. Yes, when the nurse called. Yes, when I signed consent alone. His voice broke. Yes. The room seemed to exhale. There it was. No rumor, no implication, no document. His mouth, his truth. I felt nothing at first, then a deep, clean grief moved through me. Not sharp, not new. It was the old wound finally losing its fog. Why? I asked. He rubbed both hands over his face. Sienna went into labor early. She was scared. I thought you were having cramps. You had said there had been some spotting before. I thought I could get there after. I stared. You chose the birth. I did not know you were losing the baby. You did not answer. I panicked. The same word, always that word, as if panic were weather, as if it arrived without invitation and left no fingerprints. You let me doubt my own memory, I said. He looked at me then. I am sorry. The words came too late to be useful, but they came not polished, not public, not strategic, still not enough. I wanted to tell you, he said. No, you wanted to be forgiven without confessing. His eyes filled. I had seen Ethan angry, cold, charming, tired, irritated. I had rarely seen him cry. His tears did not move me the way I once imagined they would. Maybe because I knew tears were not transformation, they were only water. He stood and came toward me. Rachel shifted. I held up a hand. Do not. He stopped. I can end it with Sienna, he said. I should have done it years ago. I know that now. I will keep supporting Noah. But I can end everything else. We can go away. We can get help. We can rebuild. I looked at the boxes, at the bed, at the framed photo still face down in the drawer. Rebuild what? Us. There is no foundation left. We can make one. With what? Your panic, my amnesia. He flinched. I placed the hospital bracelet in a small envelope and put it in my bag. Ethan's voice dropped. I love you. You keep saying that now. Because it is true. No, I said, because nothing else is working. His face crumpled in a way that might have once brought me to my knees. Now I only felt tired. He moved suddenly, not toward me but toward my suitcase. He grabbed the handle. You cannot just leave. I walked over and placed my hand over his. Let go. He gripped harder. Olivia, please. That word, please. How many times had I said it? Please tell me the truth. Please do not lie to my face. Please come home. Please choose me. Please stop making me feel crazy. Now it sounded strange in his mouth. Let go, I repeated. He shook his head, rainwater still dripping from his hair onto the floor. You are my wife. You are, legally, for now, emotionally, no. He looked at me as if I had struck him, then his hand loosened. I pulled the suitcase away downstairs. The movers resumed loading. Ethan followed us to the foyer like a ghost haunting a house before death had officially occurred. At the front door, rain fell in silver sheets. He stood behind me. Was there ever a chance? He asked. I stopped. That was the question he should have asked years ago, after the first affair, after the gossip column, after Noah, after the hospital, after dinner, not now, when Chance had been starved until only paperwork remained. Yes, I said. He inhaled. There were hundreds. I opened the door. The rain was cold on my face. Ethan followed me onto the porch and caught the suitcase handle again, not forcefully this time. Desperately. Olivia, please, do not leave like this. I gently removed his fingers one by one. You panicked too late. Then I walked to the car behind me. He said my name once, not commanding, not polished, broken. I got in anyway. As the car pulled away, I looked back only once. Ethan stood on the porch in the rain, the house bright behind him, the life he had ruined still pretending it could shelter him. My phone buzzed, email notification, subject, petition for dissolution, court acknowledgement, filed, stamped, real. I looked at the message until the house disappeared behind the gates. Then I put the phone down and did not cry. The first settlement meeting took place in a conference room with beige walls, a long glass table, and a pitcher of water no one touched. Neutral spaces always felt dishonest to me. Nothing about that room was neutral. Not the lawyer's folders, not Ethan sitting across from me in a charcoal suit, not Margaret beside him with her pearls and her fury, not Sienna at the far end of the table, invited by Whitmore counsel because matters involving Noah and trust discussions might arise. Rachel sat to my right. On my left sat a junior attorney named Priya, who had organized the evidence binders with a precision that bordered on art. Each tab had a label: bank records, foundation payments, trust amendment, hospital records, security footage, communications, timeline. I did not look at Ethan when I entered. That was deliberate. For years, every room began with measuring his mood. Was he tired, angry, charming? Was I safe to speak? Should I wait? Was Margaret watching? Was Sienna nearby? Had he already decided the outcome today? I measured only my chair, then I sat. Ethan looked worse than he had at the house, still handsome, still expensive, but thinner somehow, like the space around him had grown and he could not fill it. Margaret looked immaculate. Sienna looked wounded. Noah was not present. Small mercy. Whitmore counsel, Leonard Pierce, began with a statement about privacy, family dignity, minimizing reputational harm, and the best interests of all parties. Rachel let him speak. That was one of her talents. She allowed people to build elaborate traps, then pointed out they were standing inside them. Leonard finished by saying, "Our client's hope misses. Whitmore will consider a collaborative resolution rather than a punitive public battle." Rachel smiled politely. "My client has always preferred resolution. She is not responsible for the facts being unattractive." Margaret's lips tightened. Ethan looked at me then. "Olivia, I want to settle this with respect." I met his eyes. "Then start with honesty." He looked down. Sienna inhaled softly. Her attorney, a nervous man named Alan Price, touched her elbow as if reminding her not to perform too early. Margaret ignored that. "Before we descend into accusations," she said, "I want to say one thing clearly. This family will not allow an innocent child to be punished because Olivia cannot accept disappointment." Rachel's pen stopped moving. I felt the sentence move through me. Disappointment. The Whitmore dictionary was truly remarkable. Affair became complication, financial misuse became support, trespassing became anxiety, a miscarriage became unfortunate, and betrayal became disappointment. I opened my binder. Rachel did not stop me. I turned to the first tab and removed a photograph. The anniversary dinner, Ethan seated beside Sienna, Noah between them, my empty champagne glass in the foreground. I placed it on the table. "Noah is not on trial," I said. "The adults who brought him to my anniversary dinner are." Sienna's eyes filled instantly. "I never wanted to hurt you." I looked at her. "Then you should have chosen a different hobby." Her tears paused. Rachel's mouth twitched. Alan whispered, "Sienna." But Sienna leaned forward. "You have always hated me because Ethan loved me differently." Ethan closed his eyes. That sentence told the whole room more than she intended. I slid the second document forward. Bank records. Ethan paid Vale Residential Holdings through accounts funded partly by marital assets and my personal recurring transfers. He also approved foundation-adjacent consulting payments to your company without documented deliverables. Sienna's lips parted. "That was for legitimate work." Maya's signed statement came next. "Then you will be relieved that we preserved the deliverable requests." Leonard shifted. We are not here to litigate foundation operations, Rachel said. Then you should not have offered a settlement requiring my client to waive claims arising from those operations. Priya slid copies of the trust amendment across the table. Margaret's face tightened. That document was a draft, Leonard said quickly. Prepared by your office, Rachel replied. Presented to my client without independent counsel. In a meeting where she was pressured to sign, Margaret spoke coldly. It was intended to protect Noah. I turned to the relevant clause and read aloud. Olivia Harper Whitmore agrees to maintain current foundation representation through the next fiscal year and waives independent claims relating to reputational damages arising from the matter. I looked up. Explain how that protects Noah. Margaret said nothing. Ethan rubbed his thumb along the edge of the table. Sienna's attorney looked increasingly unhappy to be alive. Then Margaret recovered. You are angry because Ethan has a child and you do not. The room went silent. Ethan's head snapped toward her. Mother, no, she said, not looking at him. This needs to be said. Olivia has allowed grief to distort her judgment. Rachel's voice went dangerously soft. Careful. Margaret turned to her. I am stating reality. I opened the hospital tab. The certified copies rested inside clear sleeves for a moment. My fingers paused on the page, not because I was unsure, because some truths still hurt even after they become weapons. I placed the record on the table. November the 14th, Street, Mercy Hospital, emergency admission, procedure consent signed by me alone. Staff attempted to call Ethan 3 times. Ethan stared at the page. Sienna looked away. Margaret's expression barely moved, but the tiny tightening around her eyes told me she knew what came next. I placed the social worker note beside it. Same night, same hospital system. Visitor registry noted Ethan Whitmore in the maternity wing. No one spoke. I looked at Ethan. You were with Sienna while I lost our child. He closed his eyes. Leonard inhaled. Alan muttered, oh, hell. Sienna's tears began again. Faster now. I was in labor. I was scared. Noah came early. I turned to her, and for once, I let her see my full disgust. I believe you were scared. I believe labor was real. I believe Noah deserved care. But you knew he was married. You knew I existed. And later, you stood at my anniversary dinner as if my pain was a chair you could take. She started sobbing. This time, no one comforted her. Ethan's voice was rough. Olivia, I am sorry. I did not answer, not because I had nothing to say, because the apology was not the point anymore. Rachel tapped the next tab. Security footage. Priya connected a laptop to the conference screen. The video began. Sienna in my study, opening drawers, searching the cabinet, holding the empty flash drive. Her voice filled the room. Where did she put the signed version? Sienna went white. Then Anna and Marcus entered. The video continued. Once she signs, Noah is safe. That was the whole point. Rachel paused the video. The screen froze on Sienna's face. Not soft, not scared. Caught. Alan put both hands over his mouth. Leonard looked at Margaret. Margaret looked at nothing. I removed the folded note in Margaret's handwriting and placed it on the table. Second floor study. Blue folder. If signed, bring copy. Do not engage. Oh, Rachel said. We have the original preserved. Margaret's voice was flat. That proves nothing. It proves coordination, Rachel said. It proves an attempt to obtain or confirm execution of a legal document by accessing my client's private study, combined with the prior pressure meeting, the financial records, and the waiver language. It proves enough that you should stop calling this a family misunderstanding. Ethan looked at his mother for the first time, not as a son obeying, but as a man realizing she had worsened the exposure. You sent Sienna to the study, he asked. Margaret's face did not change. I tried to protect the family. He laughed once. Broken. You mean you tried to protect the trust, and you made it necessary. That was the first honest thing she had said. The room shifted. There were no heroes across the table, no innocent adults, only people turning on one another now that I had stopped absorbing the impact. Leonard requested a break. Rachel refused. We can keep going, or we can discuss realistic terms. Leonard looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at me. What do you want? He asked again, but this time, there was no arrogance in it, only defeat. I opened the final tab. Settlement terms. My independent assets untouched. Full reimbursement for marital funds diverted to third-party housing and personal expenses. Subject to verification. Foundation separation. Written statement that I did not authorize Vale Consulting payments, no use of my name, image, marital status, or donor relationships, no public statement implying I rejected or harmed Noah, no contact from Margaret except through counsel, house disposition according to agreement, jewelry and apology gifts to be appraised and resolved legally, divorce finalized without delay, Sienna whispered. What about Noah? I looked at her. Ethan can support his son from his own funds, not mine, not foundation funds, not by forcing me to launder his choices. Ethan nodded slowly. Margaret snapped. You are giving her everything. He looked at his mother. No, he said, she is taking back what we used. The room went still. I looked at him. There it was, a truth, late, useless, but still a truth. Rachel gathered the documents. We will await formal response by Friday. Any further contact outside counsel will be documented. The meeting ended in fragments. Chairs moved, lawyers whispered. Sienna cried quietly into a tissue no one had offered. Margaret walked out first, rigid with fury. Ethan stayed. Seated, I stood. He rose too. Olivia. Rachel paused beside me. It is fine, I said. We stepped into the hallway, not alone but far enough from the others that his voice could drop. He looked older under courthouse fluorescent lights. Was there ever a chance? He asked, the same question from the porch. Maybe he expected a different answer now that all the truth had been spoken. I looked at him. There was a chance every time I cried and you waited for me to get over it. His face folded. I did love you, he said. I know. That seemed to hurt him more. Then why does it feel like you do not believe it? Because love that requires me to disappear is not enough to keep. He swallowed. What am I supposed to do now? I looked down the hallway where Rachel waited, binder in hand, my life in organized tabs. Tell the truth sooner to the next person. Then I walked away. Behind me, Ethan did not call my name. The divorce was finalized on a clear morning in April. By then, the city had moved on to newer scandals. It always did. Public attention was a storm with a short attention span. But the damage inside the Whitmore world remained. The foundation review confirmed improper payments to Vale Consulting. Ethan repaid the funds personally. The board issued a carefully worded statement acknowledging governance failures and announcing new controls. Margaret stepped down from her advisory position for health reasons, which everyone understood meant legal reasons dressed in pearls. Sienna's shell company became the subject of a tax and compliance inquiry. She did not go to prison. Real life rarely wrapped consequences that neatly. But she lost the apartment after Ethan stopped covering costs through tangled channels. Her attorney negotiated child support through proper court procedures. Noah received what he was legally owed from his father, not what Sienna tried to extract from my silence. I insisted on that distinction. Children deserve support. Betrayal does not deserve subsidy. Ethan remained rich. I knew some people would find that unsatisfying. They wanted ruin, bankruptcy, handcuffs, a dramatic fall from a glass tower. But Ethan's real punishment was more intimate. He lost the story. He lost the wife who made him look honorable. He lost donors who had trusted my judgment. He lost the easy authority of being believed first. He lost the version of himself that existed only because I had kept repairing it. The morning of the final hearing, I wore a black suit and small pearl earrings that had belonged to my mother. No diamonds, no armor. Borrowed from the Whitmore vault. Rachel met me outside the courtroom with 2 coffees. You slept? She asked. Yes, actually, 6 hours. I am proud and suspicious. I smiled. It felt unfamiliar in a good way. Inside the courtroom, Ethan sat with Leonard Pierce. He turned when I entered. His face softened in a way that once would have pulled me across the room. I sat beside Rachel. The judge reviewed the settlement, asset division, foundation separation, reimbursement terms, confidentiality, limits, public statement restrictions, no admission language except where required by financial corrections, no mutual disparagement with exceptions for legal, tax, regulatory, and therapeutic disclosures. Marriage, reduced to clauses. It should have felt tragic. Instead, it felt clean. When the judge asked whether I entered the agreement voluntarily, I stood. Yes, Your Honor. My voice did not shake. Ethan stood after me. Yes, Your Honor. His voice did. The judge signed just like that. After 8 years of marriage, 3 years of hidden fatherhood, 1 anniversary dinner, 1 hospital record, 1 trust trap, 1 gala speech, and countless tears, I was no longer Olivia Whitmore, I was Olivia Harper again. The name sounded like a door opening outside the courtroom. Reporters waited, fewer than at the gala. But enough, Rachel had warned me not to say much. I did not plan to. Ethan came out behind me for a moment. We stood side by side at the top of the courthouse steps, a final accidental portrait, no wedding ring, no hand at my back, no staged unity. A reporter called, "Ms. Harper, do you hate Ethan Whitmore?" The question was crude, maybe that was why I answered it. "No," I said, "I am done giving him that much space in my life." The line traveled. I knew it would. Short sentences always did. Another reporter asked, "Are you starting over?" I looked at the street beyond the cameras. Cars moved. People crossed. Somewhere, someone was late for coffee. Somewhere, someone was signing a lease. Somewhere, a woman was opening a door she had paid for herself. "No," I said, "I am continuing without what was hurting me." Rachel touched my elbow. We began down the steps. "Olivia," Ethan said. I stopped. Rachel's hand remained near my arm, but she did not interrupt. Ethan stood 3 steps above me, sunlight on his face. For once, he did not look like a Whitmore heir. He looked like a man who had reached the end of a hallway and found every door locked from the other side. "I ended it with Sienna," he said. I looked at him, not Noah. I would never abandon him. "But Sienna and I are done. I should have done it long before." "I know that." I said nothing. He took 1 step down. "I am in therapy." That almost made me smile, not cruelly, sadly. "Good, I mean it, I hope so." He swallowed. "Could we ever talk?" "Not now, later, just coffee." Closure. Closure. People loved that word when they wanted a door left unlocked. I looked at him, and I felt the strangest tenderness. Not love, not longing, not forgiveness, something quieter. The tenderness of seeing a house after you have moved out, knowing rain still falls on the roof but no longer on your bed. "No," I said. His eyes closed briefly. When he opened them, they were wet. I thought if I fixed things, maybe. I shook my head. "You are still thinking of repair as a way to get something back." He looked down. "I am sorry," he said. "I know, I will be sorry for the rest of my life. That belongs to you." He nodded slowly. A black car waited at the curb for him, another for me. Once, we would have left in the same one. I walked toward mine. At the door, I paused and turned back one last time. "Ethan," he looked up quickly, hope flaring before he could stop it. "Be better for your son." The hope changed into something else. Pain, maybe, or understanding. Then I got into the car. Rachel slid in beside me as we pulled away. She leaned back and exhaled. "How do you feel?" I thought about the question. Not victorious, not shattered, not empty. "Present," I said. Rachel smiled. "That is a good place to start." My new apartment was across town in a brick building with wide windows and no family portraits. It overlooked a small park where dogs chased tennis balls with the kind of joy humans kept complicating. I had chosen it because the morning light was honest and because no one there knew which fork Margaret preferred for fish. The movers had already arranged my books badly. I did not correct them immediately. Imperfection felt luxurious. On the kitchen counter sat 3 things: a vase of yellow tulips I had bought myself, a stack of documents for the new Harper Housing Initiative, and a small velvet box containing my wedding ring. Rachel had asked what I wanted to do with it: sell it, store it, return it, melt it, donate the value. There were options for now. I opened the box. The diamond caught the light. It was beautiful. That annoyed me a little. Beautiful things could still be part of ugly stories. I closed the box and placed it in a drawer, not hidden, not displayed, just stored until I decided what meaning, if any, it would have. Then I opened the windows. Air moved through the apartment, cool and clean. My phone buzzed. A message from Clara. First donor meeting for Harper Housing confirmed. Also, Maya says the new compliance template is ready. We are really doing this. I smiled. Yes, I typed. We are. Another message arrived. Unknown number. It was a photo. Noah holding the green dinosaur in what looked like a supervised visitation center playroom. Under it, a text from Ethan. He asked if the lady from the big lights is okay. I told him yes. I stared at the photo for a long time. Then I typed back, "Tell him Rex still looks strong." I sent it. Then I blocked the number, not because I hated Ethan, because boundaries were not punishments, they were doors. That evening, I cooked pasta badly and ate it anyway. I sat on the floor because the dining table had not arrived. Rain began after sunset, tapping lightly against the windows. Once, Rain had meant Ethan on the porch, begging too late. Now it meant weather. My life did not become perfect after I left him. Freedom was not a montage. There were legal bills, sleepless nights, awkward questions, lonely mornings, and sudden memories that still found soft places to bruise. But there was also quiet, no waiting for footsteps, no checking his phone location, no scanning expense reports for perfume-shaped lies, no dinners where my pain had to be plated politely, no one telling me to make room for the consequences of their betrayal. A week after the divorce, I stood in the empty office of Harper Housing Initiative while Maya argued with a contractor about internet wiring and Clara labeled temporary desks with sticky notes. Rachel had stopped by with sandwiches and legal forms. The place smelled like dust, paint, and beginning. I looked around at the unfinished walls. For years, I had built homes for other people while losing my own room inside my marriage. Now I was building something that did not require me to disappear. Maya called across the room. Olivia, where do you want the donor wall? I turned. There was sunlight on the floor, no portraits, no chandeliers, no Whitmore crest. Not at the entrance, I said. People should see the work first. Maya smiled. Good answer. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Whitmore Holdings restructures public affairs strategy after foundation split. I deleted the alert not because it did not matter, because it did not belong to me anymore. That night, I walked home instead of calling a car. The city was loud, ordinary, alive. A couple argued outside a restaurant. A cyclist swore at a taxi. Someone laughed into a phone. Steam rose from a street cart. Nothing arranged itself for my grief, and strangely, that comforted me. At my building, I paused before going inside. In the glass door, I saw my reflection, bare hand, tired eyes, straight shoulders. For a second, I remembered the woman at the anniversary dinner. Ivory dress, champagne untouched, ring placed beside the glass, phone lifted for evidence while everyone waited for tears. I wanted to reach back to her, not to save her. She had saved me. She had done it in the smallest way. She had stopped crying where they could use it. She had taken a picture. She had cancelled a transfer. She had sent one message: I need you, not emotionally, legally. And from that tiny refusal, a whole life had opened. I stepped inside my building. The lobby smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. My neighbor's dog barked once. The elevator was slow. Everything was normal, perfectly, wonderfully normal. When I unlocked my apartment door, the rooms were dark. I turned on one lamp. Warm light filled the space. No one waited to question me. No one needed me to perform grace. No one asked me to make room. I set down my bag, kicked off my shoes, and opened the window. The city moved below. I stood there for a long time, breathing. I had loved Ethan Whitmore. I had cried over his affairs. I had bled through his lies. I had been asked to accept his child, protect his mistress, preserve his mother's pride, maintain his foundation, and call all of it family. But in the end, I did not win because I destroyed him. I won because I stopped organizing my life around his damage. Somewhere across the city, Ethan was probably sitting in a house too large for one man, learning that silence could be louder than accusation. Somewhere, Sienna was learning that access gained through betrayal could vanish when records replaced sympathy. Somewhere, Margaret was learning that family names did not frighten women who had already survived the worst thing the family could do. And I was here, in my own apartment, with my own name, my own work, my own door. For the first time in 8 years, I slept before midnight, and when I woke in the morning, no one had betrayed me while I slept. That was not a fairy tale ending. It was better. It was peace.